RetroGaming Radio 2005. Keep it retro. Welcome to RetroGaming Radio. I'm Shane Armin, your host. RetroGaming Radio. RetroGaming Radio. Today, Wednesday, another game based on the Quake 2 engine.
Kimberly, come in. Are you okay?
You're now listening to RetroGaming Radio. RetroGaming Radio.
And you're listening to RetroGaming Radio.
Welcome to the program. RetroGaming Radio 2005. Shane Armin, Bryan Smith behind the mixing board. Keep it retro.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the November 2004 edition of Retro Gaming Radio. This is Shane Armin, your host. Bryan Kid Hype Smith behind the mixing board, producing the show for you. Welcome to the program. We're going to have an interview with Bruce Davis, the former president of Imagic. He made all those cool games for the 2600, as well as he also was the CEO of Activision in the late 80s. So that was an exciting time. It's a good interview. You're going to like that. We're also going to be introducing a new contest, Prove Billy Mitchell's an Ass. You're going to love that. We are also going to give you a Flashback review. Yes, it's been a while, but we've got a new one for you. Bryan and I tag team Amiga CD32 Football. Guys will have a good time with that. We also have for you a review of the PlayStation 2's Midway's Arcade Treasures 2. We're going to have a giant Bits and Bytes segment for you. As per always these days, it seems that the Bits and Bytes just keep getting bigger. We're also going to reveal an Easter egg on the Year 5 DVD-ROM Retro Gaming Radio. You're going to have a good time with that. If you've already got the disc and you haven't found them all already, we'll help you out with yet another Easter egg. All this, so much more. Retro Gaming Radio, stick around. This month's editorial commentary is called Cherry High. I'm sure everybody's just wondering, what the hell does Cherry High mean? I was watching an old John Ritter movie called Skin Deep. If you haven't seen it, it's one of the funniest movies ever. Definitely some of John Ritter's best work. Send the kids out to the neighbor, though. It's not really kid appropriate. But anyway, John Ritter plays sort of this washed out writer guy. And he goes to a party held by his publisher, this gay, tall, flamboyant guy. Just cracks me up. He's so serious that it's funny. Anyway, I was watching this, and there's this one part at the party where the publisher just insults and owns the living crap out of John Ritter's character. And John Ritter looks at him and says, if you feel that way about me, why do you keep representing me? You know, in the whole movie, we're wondering the same thing. I mean, this guy's a total screw-up. And for some reason, this time watching, it suddenly dawned on me, I understand why people are buying the same video games every single year. They're buying the same Madden. They're buying the same fighting games. They're buying the same FPS. And the publisher looks back at him and he says, that's like asking why a heroin addict shoots up. He's looking for that cherry high, that first time ride that he got, I'm paraphrasing here, I don't have it written down. But basically he said that, he's looking for that cherry high, that rush that he knows good and well he'll never get again. But he can't stop trying to look for it. And that sort of gave me a little insight on why people continue to buy games that they know they're being taken on. It's amazing to me. Doom 3 got more talk before it was released than after. For God's sakes, I've been hearing about Doom 3 for a year. I know people who bought new machines specifically to play Doom 3 a year before the game came out. A month after the game came out, I don't hear anything about Doom 3 anymore. It's done. It's over. The phenomenon's gone. I mean, what's that all about? I mean, this is like most anticipated game in history, and a month later, it's gone. People are looking for the rush that they once got, that cherry high that they got when they first played Doom, or they first played, in my case, Wolf 3D. I don't care what you think about Wolf 3D. It started it all. Chill out. It was still cool. That rush that they got when they played Quake. And people will continue to jab a vein looking for that, buying the same games over and over again, despite the fact that they're perfectly in the know, understanding that they're buying the same game every year, right? How many, Battlefields 1942 did we have last year? I mean, we had tons of those. But people continue to buy these games hoping that there will be something distinguishable. I think a lot of people have forgotten, and a lot of people don't know. If you didn't grow up during the golden age of video gaming, that late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s, where there were still cool things happening. I mean, there were things that could still truly knock your socks off. Things that people waited a long time for, and they talked about a long time afterwards. You don't really see that sort of thing anymore. What you see now is a lot of hype, a lot of marketing. You hear it as a household word for a month, and then it goes away for the flavor of the month. Right? That pretty much sums it up. People are always asking me, why do you think that classic gaming is so much better than modern gaming? It's just a matter of the fact that's when you grew up and that's what you remember, blah, blah, blah. So it really doesn't have any value. It doesn't have any merit. Truth is, things were still exciting back then. And if you never experienced that, if you've never experienced the cherry high of seeing a game like Saucer Attack, which had like Amiga quality graphics on a Commodore 64, until you've seen the impossible be done before your very eyes. Something you had absolutely, if somebody came up to you and said, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to make this game and it's going to do this, you're going to go, no way. There's no possible way you could make a Commodore 64, a Speccy, an Amiga. You couldn't make a machine do that. And yet they came out and did it. And your mouth is hanging open watching this. Watching arcade quality graphics on an 8-bit home computer. You're going, damn. That's a cherry high. When you first booted up Forbidden Force and it took 22.5 minutes to load from tape and that music kicked in, it was the best music you've ever heard on a computer. It was the coolest graphics you'd ever seen. And it was scary and all this stuff, and the blood was gushing all over the place when the skeleton took you out. That's a cherry high. You don't get that anymore. What was nice about the old school days is we got that like once a year, sometimes twice a year. They were still pushing the limits of the machines that were in existence. Nowadays, there's no such thing as the cherry high. In fact, if a game doesn't meet or exceed every possible standard on the planet, it gets the smackdown. Right? If you're not making the pebbles in the grass flip around on the screen, who cares if the game's any fun? If you're not making the pebbles and the mattresses playable characters in the game, and you're not rendering it at 200 frames per second at 1280 by 1024, your game sucks. That's the measure. And there's no cherry high involved in that. All you're doing is meeting the expectations. At best, you're meeting the expectations. In the old days, every time we turned around, they were showing us stuff that was impossible. They were showing us 24-bit graphics on an Amiga that we shouldn't have been able to see that. This is a 32-color machine. We're seeing 4,096 colors rendered in high resolution on an Amiga. For crying out loud, that's amazing. That's phenomenal. I couldn't believe that it happened. The Juggler demo on the Amiga. I shouldn't be seeing that. I don't even see that on TV. That's how good that is. The cherry high syndrome is what the problem is now with modern video gaming. There is no cherry high anymore. And there won't be a cherry high again until we move into something like virtual reality. There's not another console that can come out. There's not another controller that they can release. There's not another genre of gaming that they can put in front of people where people are going to get that first time rush, that cherry high. Again, until something unbelievable happens, like totally immersive virtual reality. And I'm telling you, folks, we're not going to see it in this lifetime. Those of you who are the 30-somethings right now listening to the sound of my voice, you're dreaming about holodecks and virtual reality, ain't going to happen. You can hold your dreams. By the time there's virtual reality and you can have Cindy Crawford giving you a lap dance, you're going to be too old to enjoy it. Or you'll be dead. There's no more cherry highs, folks. But it's an interesting thought to go into video gaming with a new, fresh conception. Am I looking for a cherry high? Or am I just killing time? There are things in video games. You can always produce a gasp. You can always produce, hey, that's cool. But the cherry high, that first-time rush, just doesn't exist anymore. And I thought that was something interesting that I came across during the course of the last few days that I thought I would share with you as an editorial commentary on the show. It's a little shorter. It's going to be less than 10 minutes for the editorial commentary, but I thought that was interesting enough to make the correlation and discuss with you, my listeners, because I think it's just like other things that we've come up with in the past, about people justifying purchases and things like that. People watching is fascinating to me, to see how people react, what people hold as value, the social aspects. If you want to take a turn at this, go sit in the airport. Go down to your local big international airport. Just sit down for a few hours and watch people. It's fascinating. It's fascinating to be a people watcher and to be a connoisseur of human activity. It's interesting. Anyway, I'm not going to continue to drag this editorial commentary out, but I just wanted to share with you the concept of the cherry high. I think it puts sort of a whole different light on things, don't you think? This month we interview Bruce Davis. This was the man responsible for a lot of what you saw at Imagic. He was the president of Imagic back in the golden age, and he moved on, if you can believe this, to being the CEO of Activision in the late 80s. Fascinating interview. Without further ado, here is the man, Bruce Davis. This is Shane R. Monroe at the Classic Gaming Expo 2004 in San Jose, California. I'm here with Bruce Davis, General Counsel and then President of Imagic. Of course, everybody knows Imagic, DemonAttack, Atlantis, Cosmic Arc. The titles go on and on. Welcome. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks. It's my pleasure.
Give us a little history about your involvement with Imagic.
Okay. I was an attorney at Orrick, Harrington & Sutcliffe, a San Francisco law firm in 1982. When Imagic began looking for strong outside counsel to represent them because the industry was growing like wildfire, and Imagic was the second independent software company after Activision.
Right.
And as they recruited their law firm, they got to know me, and before I knew it, they had asked me to join the management team there as their vice president and general counsel. And once I got there in August of 1982, I understood why they wanted me to join, because they were planning a public offering.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they didn't have a general counsel to do that. And so I immediately began working on our IPO, and we were all queued up to go in December of 1982 when Atari pre-announced that the quarter results were not going to be anywhere near what anyone expected them to be. And that disrupted the offering. Right as we were about to price, the president at the time, Bill Grubb, was in New York with the investment bankers, the best bankers in the country, putting together this very, very hot public offering. And the expression they have is the book went away, and the book is the proposed orders because of the announcement from Atari. Well, the announcement from Atari was foreboding. It really foreshadowed the incredible decline of the industry in 1983. And so as the industry started to decline, the investors found that we were in very deep financial trouble in terms of our inventory, and asked me if I would take over the business, become president, see what I could do with it. So I ran it then from early 1983 until we sold off our assets in 1985.
That seems sort of an interesting side job. I mean, general counsel to president of a video game company.
Well,
how did that work out?
I was only 29 at the time, so it was kind of an outrageous suggestion, I thought. And it was that we were in deep trouble. I had an accounting background as well as a law background, and I seemed to have a sense of how the market was developing, and they wanted someone who could try to navigate through the turbulent waters of the decline of the marketplace. And a lot of the issues were financial and legal issues, because we had sold $37 million worth of product in our first 6 months in existence. And that was the biggest revenue growth in the history of America at the time.
Really?
Yeah. I remember that we were on all the business magazines as America's fastest growing company. Well, what we didn't realize was that although we booked $85 million in revenue in 1982, okay, only about 40 million of it sold through.
Right.
So we had a $40 million inventory problem in the field, And then we had been building up inventory in anticipation of Christmas in 1982 because there was a worldwide shortage of integrated circuits because of the raging demand for video games. So we bought a lot of inventory. So we had $80 million in bookings, $40 million in sell-through, so a $40 million field inventory problem, and then a $40 million inventory problem in the warehouse.
Wow.
But it wasn't uncommon. In fact, I think Atari was probably in much worse shape than we were, and Activision was in bad shape as well. And Activision managed to get a public offering in early 1983 and raised a bunch of capital that allowed the company to survive. And Imagic wasn't as fortunate in being able to get to the public market to get more capital.
Did you guys have the same problem that Atari did in terms of having a lot of cartridges on the shelves that the retailers were asking you to take back?
Yes. And the general practice of retailers to this day is that the manufacturers need to take care of them when they have an inventory problem. Well, here, in retrospect, we see that the run rate of the industry in 1982 was about $2 billion of sales. In 1983, just 1 year later, it was less than 200 million. So you had a contraction of 90% in the marketplace in 1 year. So all that inventory from the run rate of $2 billion was sitting out there being absorbed by 10% as much true demand. And there are lots of things going on. Very interesting time. There were some bad games. We all recall that certain games went out that really weren't well done. There was a sense that the hardware was being maxed out by the software. We were doing 2K and 4K games at the time, and we were really trying to think how to tweak the hardware to get a little bit more mileage, a little more exciting graphics, a little more interesting gameplay. But everyone was challenged to make more and better games at a time when the capital was flowing like crazy.
Right.
So you see what happened here is, in essence, in the marketing sense, there was much more push than pull because there was so much money going in, so much excitement about the industry that there were many, many more games in terms of titles and units per title produced than the market could absorb. And that then usually leads to, as it did there, a dramatic decrease in the price points. So we went from $35 games down to $1 or $2 sort of flea market level prices in 1 year.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was. It was an amazing disaster, and we only can marvel at it in comparison to the internet. It's sort of people marvel at the internet. Well, we went through.
This is round two.
Yeah, it was wild.
Okay, so you were general counsel, and what did you do during those earlier days as general counsel? Just the IPO offering type stuff?
I started out as the outside counsel for intellectual property, so I was responsible for copyrights and trademarks essentially in those days. But that was for a relatively short period of time, from January of '82 until August of '82. Then they asked me to join the management team as vice president and general counsel. And as I got there, I found out that they had a sort of a secret plot, and their secret plot was they were getting ready for a public offering. That's why they needed a general counsel, but they didn't want to tell anyone that. So as I got there, Bill Grubb, who was the president, came to me and said, "Bruce, what do you know about public offerings?" And I said, "Not much, just what I read." And he says, "Well, you're going to learn a lot more because you're going to do one." I remember that day. It was really like, wow. And I was just in my late 20s, and in comes the boss and says, "You're going to do a public offering for America's fastest growing company." So it was really thrilling.
Did you have any interesting... Atari and Activision always went through these back and forth lawsuits, and it seems somebody was suing somebody about something. Imagic always seemed to be excluded from that. I never really heard about Imagic getting their paws dirty with a copyright infringement or...
Well,
anything like that.
We were accused of copyright infringement by Atari in the late stages of our public offering, and they said that DemonAttack was a rip-off of Phoenix. Okay.
It's kind of a stretch, but okay.
Yep, it was a stretch. And so when I was a general counsel at the time, so I went over and met with the general counsel at Atari, and I told them that we were going to countersue them for interfering with a public offering, because I thought the lawsuit was merely an effort to derail our IPO. And to this day, I'm convinced that's what it was. And their general counsel was a very bright guy, and I had some lunch together, and he basically said, let's settle this thing up. So we settled it up with a nominal royalty. We paid them a very small royalty, and they settled the lawsuit immediately. And they did that, I think, because Ray Kassar, who was the boss at the time, probably just told him in his style of that era, just get it done. And then the general counsel probably got to look at it toward the end and said, "What are you guys doing? We're going to get in deep trouble here." And then Davis came over, and so he said, "Okay, I agree with you. Let's sort of get rid of this thing." So it was only pending for a couple of months, and then it went away.
That's good. So your public offering, what exactly happened with the public offering, other than just the bad luck of the crash? I mean, was there something instrumental in that?
Well, this is we'll never know, perhaps, unless some of the Atari management can inform us. But after we settled the lawsuit, which was in the fall of 1982, and we were getting ready for the public offering, the president and the vice president of finance were in New York with the investment bankers. I was home in Los Gatos and sort of tending the shop while they were away marketing the stock. And I think it was December 8 or December 6, it was the first week of December of 82, on the day they were pricing the stock. So they would go effective the next day, and we would all get rich, and I would have been retired 20 years ago from all the wealth created. Atari put out a press release and said in the press release, as it's commonly known today, they pre-announced a bad quarter. And they said, we're just not doing as well as we thought we were going to do. We're way off of our projections. And they did that with timing that made me believe, again, they were trying to interfere with the public offering.
That sounds exactly like they were trying to interfere with you.
And that was their style. So I really, to this day, think that they timed it to interfere with us. But I think the important point to recognize, whether they timed it in that way or not, what they said was true. And that was that they had recognized that the industry was not growing anywhere near the pace that everyone had estimated. And I had come to the same conclusion around the same time, and probably others were doing as well, because while the president and the head of finance were off doing the public offering, they asked me to work on a business plan for the company. So I started gathering industry analyst data and talking to customers and seeing what our competitors were saying. When I added it all up on the spreadsheet, it didn't add up. I looked at it and I said, "My God, we have I thought at the time 5 or 6 times too much product in the market for the demand." So I got really scared when I started working.
Did you get that real sinking feeling in your stomach when you hit calculate and it just?
And in those days we were using Lotus 1, 2, 3.
Right,
yeah,
sure.
So you had to do the manual recalc on it. And when I did, it was scary.
Yeah, I bet.
And so.
And you were president at that time?
No, I was general counsel at that time. The president was off marketing the stock, and so. The industry appeared to fall off a cliff, but what really happened was that there was robust continuing demand. We see that because the industry survived and became a multi-billion-dollar, very important entertainment industry. But there was too much investment, too much capital, too many people coming into the market, not enough barriers to entry, if you like. I mean,
interesting. That's kind of the first time we've really heard of that slant. The investment side of it being responsible.
So what would happen then at retail is the retailers would take all they could get, and they kept expanding the shelf space, and Toys R Us was the primary retailer at the time. And they'd put everything on the shelves, and the consumers would come in, and because they were thirsty for titles and they were interested in experimentation, they'd sort of buy everything that was new. Well, a lot of the new product was not very good.
Right.
And so they started to get some damaged expectations out of that, and some returned product and some disruption at retail. But then the big players like Activision and Atari and Television and Imagic started pushing huge volumes in. Right. So you've got the big players pushing huge volume, and the small players bringing in oftentimes quite technically bad titles. And so the retail situation got very ugly. And the retailers were powerful enough, because when I say retailers, mainly Toys R Us, that they pushed it all back on the manufacturers. And that's where the industry totally collapsed, because Toys R Us wouldn't pay us. Now, with all due respect, I have great regard for the management of Toys R Us at the time and the way in which they tried to handle a true crisis. So it wasn't as if they were saying they're washing their hands and this is your problem, not ours. They were just trying to manage their business, so they didn't go out of control. And so they actually helped us through the years by sort of giving us a little bit of money that they owed us, as opposed to all of what they owed us. But they didn't hold back everything either. So they were always trying to sort of feed us to keep us alive and keep us going, help us to work out the problems. But they never quite gave us everything, which would have been obviously much more helpful.
Interesting.
And so the internet is a similar kind of situation, you see, where there's a new technology. It's obviously very exciting and very valuable. And so the venture capitalists at the time, and corporate money as well, started coming in. Remember, Parker Brothers got into the business, and General Mills, was working on video games. I never could quite figure that out,
Pillsbury Doughboy. I didn't know it was a Pillsbury Doughboy game. What's that all about?
Yeah, and then essentially everybody wanted to be in the business, just like the internet.
Sure, absolutely. Everybody wanted a piece of the pie.
And what we learned as we look back now from the classic gaming perspective is that there was a core, if you like, of both the kinds of entertainment and the quality of programming that drove the industry on to the ultimate success it's had. And looking back, you guys can see this in the games here at the conference, that you see the roots of today's great successes in the early games. Right?
Absolutely. So when you made that transition to president, what happened to the old president? I mean, why were you asked to pick up his position?
When a company gets in deep trouble, I'd call it almost pro forma. Sort of the CEO is held accountable and often replaced. And so I think Bill was quite a nice guy, and I think he did a marvelous job of setting the company up and building the brand name and the image. We had, remember our silver packaging? We were the
very distinctive,
sort of the Porsche of video games.
Very distinctive.
Yep. And we had great programs, many of whom are around here today. So he did a great job in doing that, but he didn't see the problem coming in the industry.
Right.
And he led the company into this very, very bad situation in terms of the inventory and the capital assets of the company and so forth. So he was seen by the investors as not having managed the business well, the infrastructure of the business. But they all, I think, respected his marketing. And so they saw in me a guy who hopefully could hold it together until the industry worked out its problems. Now, as we know, it didn't work out its problems all that fast, and that was why we ended up selling off the assets and closing down the business in early 1985. Atari hadn't quite made its mark with the NES in the U.S. until about a year and a half later or so. And so there was this gap in the marketplace where the Atari and Intellivision systems had fallen off, a ColecoVision had gone. Commodore was the best market opportunity in the 84 sort of period, but the volumes were very small, 10, 20,000 units, and we couldn't afford to build games for that kind of volume.
Really?
So we were actually, I think, able to keep going, and when I look back, I sort of wish I had kept it going. We probably would have survived, but the investors who were venture capitalists and I concluded in early 1985 that we'd have to put more money in to really run the business well. We could keep limping along, but we were right on the knife edge. We had, I think, about 40 employees or so, and none of us got any raises, none of us got any bonuses. We're just kind of like living hand to mouth and building products. In fact, Mark Klein, who I see is still active in creating games, was working on Touchdown Football, which we sold to Electronic Arts.
Right.
They then transformed that. Maybe, I don't know if that's the roots of Madden or not, but it was their early football hit. It actually came from our programming group. So we sold it off and let it go because the whole industry at that time was still in the $1 to $3 liquidation mode for the video game system.
Right.
Nintendo hadn't developed its market in the U.S. yet, and the computer gaming market, which is what we tried to shift over to because there was really no viable video game market, was, in my estimate at the time, probably a $10 to $15 million market, total market. And
it seemed like it was a lot bigger.
No, it's Broderbund and Sierra and Electronic Arts and ourselves were the primary suppliers. Broderbund was doing about 1.8 million in revenues in '85. Sierra was doing a little over 2 million, and Electronic Arts was right around the same level.
That seems very, very low.
It's amazing how things changed, obviously, over the years. But yeah, it was a very, very small industry. We were just transitioning out of the baggies around that time in the computer industry. Sierra had been packaging their products literally in baggies and 5-inch discs in that era.
Wow. there just seemed to be so much good product back then, especially like on the Commodore 64, that was the era that I got started in the 64. There seemed to be no lack of product. There always seemed to be good product. It seemed like there had been a bigger market there, but there was not.
No, you see, the problem in the computer game market in that era was really the capability of the hardware and the cost.
Right.
Very few people could afford to buy a home computer.
Right.
And when they bought it, they were working with a system that was built for business, and so gaming was difficult to program and to enjoy. And there were essentially no home printers in that era. That was pre-print shop days.
Right.
Even. And so why would anyone have a computer at home? There's nothing to do with it. And so the only people who had computers at home were technical people, programmers, computer enthusiasts, right? And they were buying the games. But if you think about that in relation to the total population, that's a pretty small number of people.
That's not 2600 style, gaming.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So you took over as president, and you limped the company as long as you could.
Well, we had to deal with what we did was, first thing was dealing with the financial matters and the inventory matters.
Right.
And so we scaled back on our staff. We had a bank that we owed money to. We had obviously a bunch of investors who were getting nothing out of the business. We had a lease for 3 facilities on University Ave in Los Gatos. And so we had lots of financial problems that we needed to deal with. Now, during the time that we were trying to deal with those problems, in came 2 opportunities to become massively successful, neither of which worked out, and again, it's sort of the way life goes. But the first of them was IBM stopped by with about 5 lawyers and 2 business people, which was their style in that day because they're coming off antitrust litigation settlement. They always wanted to have lawyers around the business people. And they said, we want you to make games for a top secret new computer, the IBM PC Junior. So we had the dubious honor of being one of only 2 home software companies pre-disclosed on the PC Junior. So they had an education software company and an entertainment software company. We were the entertainment software company.
Interesting.
So we built the first, I think it was 4 titles for the PC Junior.
There were more than 4 titles for the PC Junior?
I think it's probably 5 total. So if the PC Junior had worked, Imagic would have survived, and again, we would have all prospered, done great. But obviously, it was an abysmal failure. And then Texas Instrument, who had a 99.4A.
Interesting little computer.
Yep, decided that they needed to close it down and write it off. And under the accounting rules, closing it down and writing it off meant that they couldn't continue to support it. And they, like a great company they are, were concerned about supporting their customers.
Yeah, of course.
And we had an excellent relationship with them because we had built some product for them, Microsurgeon and some of our other games. And they came to us with a proposition. They said, look, we want you to take over all of our 99.4A assets and provide continuing support to our customers.
Wow. And
we'll figure out how much margin you get from that, and we'll take half and we'll give you half. And I thought, I've been saved.
Yeah, there you go.
our company is going to rise again. And at the last minute, Jerry Junkins, who was the president, was convinced by some of his management that we were too unstable and too small to perform such an important function, and they gave it to somebody else.
Man.
And we didn't get it. So there were those moments where we thought, we were going to be able to revive the company and survive and do well, but the big wins didn't come through, and so we were kind of chugging along, and we were doing good product, and everybody was working hard, and we had a great team, but we just didn't have a market, and we were trying to cite the company in some direction where we'd get some kind of lift. Now at the same time, I'll say, Bertevand and Sierra were limping along too. Sierra nearly went out of business, and Bertevand got a lift from Carmen Sandiego and Print Shop. A very timely lift. So they kind of found their way out. Sierra was in the course of being sold or shut down. They were going to be evicted from their building.
Wow.
And this was just before, I think it might have been King's Quest 2 or 3 came out, which then saved them. King's Quest, that particular version was a great success. So we were in that same realm. Now EA was probably doing the best of the group at that time, but they were only a couple million in revenues.
The EA was the company, as I recall, being in those early 80s. Everything that I played religiously, the Mail Order Monsters, the Archon, the Legacy of the Ancients, everything came from Electronic Arts.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they did great work, and it's not surprising, I think, that they ended up being the big dog in the business.
So towards the end, when you sat down with your people and said, gotta go. No, there's really nothing else for us to hold on to. What were those what was that time frame like from the time you guys said, we're gonna have to shut it down, until you started selling off and liquidating? What sort of time frame was that?
I think we made the judgment to let things go in February of '85, and we had an auction and a sort of shutdown process, I think, in May of that year. So there were a few months in between the decision and the ultimate disposition. And it was a time, and this is why it's interesting to come to the Classic Game Expo and sort of think about the old times. It was a time when I think we felt a kind of collective responsibility and disappointment. It wasn't as I've gone through the years now, and I run a company that's got 550 employees. It's kind of like so management does something, and then the employees hear about it, and it happens to them. This was just, there were 30 or 40 of us, and we just all sort of recognized that we couldn't figure any way to get above just treading water, and that it was a good group of people, so they had other places to go, and not that everybody had jobs lined up. They probably didn't. I didn't either. But we just figured, okay, it's time to go. We got to go try something else. But until that moment, we were all very loyal to trying to figure out a way to revive the company and to bring it back to its stature in the marketplace. But we just weren't able to do it. Was there anything like totally bizarre you guys tried to do? Some sort of total market shift, or just something you experimented with to say, this sounds like it's crazy, but let's just throw this out and see what happens? Well, that was the move from video games to computer games. That was that. Yep. Okay. Yeah. And that was one that I guided by recognizing that there was such a train wreck in distribution on video games that even if we made a great game, we wouldn't be able to get the price point that we deserved from it. Sure. And because the demand had dried up for the integrated circuits, they actually became pretty expensive. So you had an expensive hardware product that you had to sell, and no one was willing to give margins. And the consumers kind of got, I guess, disinterested too, because there were so many obvious problems, and there were quality problems, and there was lack then of innovation focus. I think Activision probably was most focused on the video games in that era. That it was just impossible to work that market. So we agreed that this emerging computer game market would be less crowded, didn't have the troubled price points and inventory issues, and discs were cheaper than ROMs. And, definitely. So we said, hey, we're going to make a run at computer entertainment. When we did that, what we found was that it wasn't growing fast enough to get us where we felt we needed to go. So it really was a very tiny market. There were essentially, I'd say, I don't know if I'd call us a real player. There are three major players with Sierra Bruderman and EA. And they were, startups. They were all private companies, small companies, and they were trying to make a market. And we formed the kernel that became the Software Publishers Association during that time. And I recall Doug Carlson and Ken Williams each invested in each other's companies. And what they said was the reason they did that was they weren't sure both would survive. So on the chance that one didn't, then they'd have an investment in the winner. So exactly. Double betting. Double betting. And that was the spirit of the time. We were all competitors, but we also felt the need to try to work together to build a market. So we built a trade association, which was very helpful in trying to understand how to build the market. And then there were these sort of odd relationships among competitors where we were all friends and we were all trying to help each other to stay alive, but then beat each other in the marketplace. That always seemed crazy to me in the old days, and I know it's a lot different now video game wise, but it always seemed that Atari was trying to stomp everybody out. Atari didn't want anybody playing in their same space, and to me that seemed counterproductive. If you're going to stomp everybody out, okay, so you're the only guy in town, but you also are harming the consumers that are buying your hardware. They thought they could have it all to themselves. And the video game industry was absolutely opposite of what I just described about the computer entertainment industry. Everybody was very, very competitive and hostile to competition. There was no cooperation going on. In fact, our company was founded with technical and creative talent from Mattel and Atari. So both Mattel and Atari hated us because we took their best guys, Dennis Coble and Bob Smith and Rob Fulop and the rest of the gang. And so there was hostility everywhere. And then Activision, thought we were invading their turf because they had the innovation of being a software company, independent from the hardware companies. And so Atari didn't like Activision because they didn't think that they should have the right to make software for their hardware, which was an unsettled issue at that time. And you recall Nintendo and Sega came along later and actually put legal restrictions in place that wouldn't allow independent software development. Everyone had to take a license from them to develop the hardware. Well, Atari hadn't figured that out yet, but they sort of felt like they should have that right. So they were hostile, and then all the rest of the guys were sort of stealing employees and stealing market share, and it was a very tumultuous and competitive time, and not a nice industry in the sense of relations. But computer entertainment was quite different, and I actually think that sort of sense of industry identity persisted through the 80s and the 90s in the computer entertainment area. And a lot of that was embodied in the Activision distribution program and the parallel program at Electronic Arts, where the big companies helped the little companies to get distribution. Very, very good model in retrospect. It helped the industry to develop stability and nurture talent and get to where it's gotten to.
Well, it certainly does seem to work.
Yep.
The amount of money they're moving now.
Yeah.
So at the very end, when you guys liquidated everything, are there any landfills in New Mexico that will find a large heaping of Imagic cartridges and ICBs?
I think about that often. I wish that we had saved more things. I think unless the employees sort of took things with them as souvenirs, it's pretty much all gone. Because as we held our auction and sold off the fixed assets, anything that wasn't sold really went in the dumpster, and so there was nothing left, nothing retained. At that time, and again, with the benefit of more maturity and understanding, I would have done it differently. I would have saved more things and had a more structured end. But at that time, we didn't know what was going to happen to entertainment software. And we didn't know whether what we had done would have any role or not in the future. And so, because we were all sort of scattering to the wind and going to do other things, we just kind of said goodbye to it. Just put the sign on the door, said out of business, and we're on our way.
Did Imagic start? Well, you were there a little bit later on, but did Imagic take the same formula that Atari did? Basically, let your programmers come and go, have the pot and pool parties, and
we ran a pretty clean shop, but there was it was referred to at the time as a sort of rock star notion for programmers. We did everything we could to nurture our talent and make sure they felt appreciated. And one of the things about Imagic, again, it went along with the sort of high quality marketing throughout the company, was they also were very generous with their key employees. And I remember Dennis Coble used to drive a Porsche company car.
Right.
Porsche. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool for a startup company, essentially.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
And it's a little bit, it's kind of reminiscent in a way of what Google has done, because I was just talking to my son. I have a 17-year-old son, and he said, over at Google, you're supposed to take a day off a week and get outdoors. They have a company massage program, and they've got some renowned chef that cooks meals for the employees. So that's worked well for them. Obviously, they've just done a very successful public offering. But it's hard for company management and investors to support that outside of what was at that time Hollywood, right? So
sure.
The video game industry was really experimenting with new models and picking and choosing from different places. It was the first real technological Hollywood kind of experience. If you think about entertainment prior to video games was analog. It was movies and music. And video games were the first time that digital technology was transformed into meaningful entertainment. And I think that was the great appeal for the consumer. It was just magical, as you can take ones and zeros and turn it into music and.
Well, sure. It's not like you haven't even had anything comparable at the schools or at work. You had the mainframes. I don't even think you didn't have Apple II at school yet.
Right.
So this. Well, I mean, there really wasn't anything to compare it to. You look today, you see, Xbox. Well, you got the arcade. You've got powerful PCs at school. It seems like a natural extension, but like you said, that was like pure magic.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to compare it to. Now, this is something really interesting. This is a good legal question, and since you were the general counsel, this might be something you could tie into. There was a movie in the early '80s called Electric Dreams. May or may not have seen it.
I didn't see it.
But he goes into this computer store to buy a computer. That's kind of the crux of the whole show. But there's a stand, just like the old Imagic marketing stands, the turn base with the big Imagic on the top and all the silver and all that. But it was not Imagic. I mean, somebody blatantly took your look and feel. I can't even remember what the name of the company was that was on the side. But I mean, it was like somebody took Imagic, stole it, and put it into this movie. And I'm wondering if you ever had problems with copycats, or if you ever had any, actual extensions with that.
The legal situation of Imagic is a very interesting one. The company still exists legally.
Really?
Yes. And the technical term for the way it exists is it's a California corporation in bad standing. Bad standing doesn't mean nasty. It means that it hasn't paid its fees to the state in 20 years. But the company can be revived, and it still exists as a legal entity. And so, if it was revived, then it would hold all of the rights that it held previously in terms of the copyrights to the games and the ability to market them. Trademark issues are a little less clear, but I still think in the video game and computer entertainment area that the trademark would be protectable back to the early days of the company.
Who owns that right now? I mean, who would you? Let's say that I was going to try to make DemonAttack for Xbox, and I wanted to come and secure that. Who would you go to?
I'm technically still the president of the company. Yeah,
wow.
There was no successor. There was no
so
formal
technically,
shutdown.
you're still in charge.
Yeah, I'm in charge of Imagic these days. I'm also in charge of another much larger company. But it's there, and I sometimes think it would be great for gamers to revive it.
It sure seems that that like the Atari name. I mean, let's be honest. Atari has their name slapped on everything these days. Driver 3, I guess, and there's some other game they just put out. I think Tron 2.0 was Atari, but it's a name. It's not a company.
But it was a much bigger name, though. Imagic has a special place within the retro gamer community, people who remember the era. But we were, in terms of brand hierarchy, in terms of volume of units sold and so forth, there was Atari and Mattel at the top of the heap. Then you'd probably say Activision and Parker Brothers, I think, in terms of brand awareness, right? And then so Imagic would be down below that level, and thus, although we could revive the brand, revive the products, get together some of the old guys maybe and have a lot of fun, it could be very successful. But it's a different investment proposition than Atari because of the scale of the brand awareness.
Well, based on how popular these are, I'm surprised that you guys, or that you, I guess, since you're in charge, haven't looked at the option of these handheld TV all-in-ones. Activision's on it, and television. Atari stuff has been licensed. Magic just seems to be a logical successor to that. Have the top 5 Magic games on a 5-in-1.
Yep.
Have you looked into that?
Some people have contacted me about opportunities like that. I personally haven't devoted the time to dealing with these things, and there hasn't really been I'll call it a structured kind of approach. Say Rob Fulop and Dennis Coble wanted to get back in the business and said, hey, Bruce, let's get back together and work on this stuff. I'd be all ears to hear that. But the old group really hasn't tried to come back together, and no one has come with really a thoughtful business proposition. More people have come and said, hey, Bruce, we remember you from the old days. We'd love to get some games and put them in a format. How do we go about doing that? And my answer always is, well, how much are you willing to pay to do that?
Sure.
And they're always pretty vague or very nominal in what they want to pay, and thus it doesn't make sense to revive the company. It would cost some money to revive it and to restructure
clear your arrears there.
Yeah. And so, if someone wanted to do it and there was a reasonable economic proposal, it could be done. But I'm the chairman and CEO of a public company.
Don't have a lot of time for that
today, and yeah, so I would love to help out, and if anyone was interested in doing it, that had the means, I'd do what I could to give them a hand.
How do you feel about emulation?
If we're not in the situation of actively enforcing our rights and people are trying to bring the games to the marketplace, then I can't have real hard feelings about that. But if we do revive the company someday, then people have to be respectful of the company's rights. And I think in the spirit that I just described of the early entertainment software industry, the company would try to be supportive of those who have been supportive of its properties and memory and brand and so forth. So it wouldn't be like we come in with a big club and sort of beat everybody out of the market.
Well, that's really funny you saying that, because that's exactly what had happened time and time again. And you may not be aware of this, since you may not be, part of that kind of gray area of emulation. But there are a lot of times when interest in company and games have been revived by just tireless efforts by hobbyists and fans. Yeah. They create this. They create what would typically cost a business, hundreds of thousands of dollars in time and marketing and everything. They build these shrines, and they're allowing people to download the game ROMs and all that good stuff.
Right.
And the company says, "Wow, these games actually have some worth after all." They send them a cease and desist letter, right? And then try to release a classic gaming package, and nothing offends. These people that thought Company X was like the best company ever, and they love them, and we're doing everything we can to keep your memory alive. And then the next thing you do, you turn around and get a cease and desist letter from them.
I know.
And so that would be something that if you guys got into that, you'd try to take a little more lighter stance on that.
Right. And what sort of brought my interest back to the fore was the sort of 20-year anniversary. Caused me to reflect back on the situation. And,
sure.
And yet, because of my schedule and other interests, I haven't really been able to keep up with the community. I still play games, and I have teenage kids who are crazed online gamers, but I don't follow the industry in the way that I used to at all.
So when you guys were done in '85, did you move on to continue in the gaming industry in another faction?
Well, somewhat surprisingly, I moved from there to Activision, became CEO at Activision. So it wasn't clear to me I'd stay in the industry, but I did. I was a CEO at Activision from '86 to '91.
Oh, you were there quite a while.
I was.
Wow. So what was it like at Activision at that time? What were the products you were putting out right about then?
Well, Activision is actually a big, complicated story. I don't know if we have time for it.
But we got as much time as you got. We don't cut our interviews short.
So
you tell us what you can give us.
I need to keep an eye on my schedule. Well, Activision at the time had just purchased creative software. There was a productivity line of software. That was being introduced just as I joined the company. We had purchased GameStar.
Right, Micro League Baseball.
Yes,
those ones.
Just before I joined in August of I think it was August of '85. About 4 months after we shut down Imagic. And Jim Levy and the folks at Activision had actually been kind to us and tried to help us to survive in '84, '85, and so I wanted to help Activision out in some way. So I joined them as VP of Corporate Development in late '85, and then became president in '86 and CEO and chairman eventually. We were trying to think of it. Our focus really was on the productivity software.
Really?
And it was from a group of fellows in France who had been aligned with Apple. And it was Apple II software. And we had a word processor and a spreadsheet and a database.
That was the integrated PFS?
No, PFS was
Lotus?
Fred Gibbons' company.
Okay. trying to remember, there was only like 3 or 4 packages.
And I'm drawing a blank on the name. It wasn't successful. That's why I'm drawing a blank. I'm trying not to remember much about it. Because it didn't work very well. It was way too slow. It had some bugs, and it really wasn't our business.
Right.
And so in the game realm, we had our GameStar line going, and the company had just acquired Infocom as well. So my predecessor's strategy for working out of the hole they were in, they at the time I joined them, they were in their 16th consecutive quarter of multi-million-dollar losses. Wow. If you can imagine that, 4 years of straight multi-million-dollar losses every quarter, and the money was getting low. And so management had decided, well, we're going to buy some, leading niche players. So we'll buy a sports game producer, we'll buy a text adventure producer, we'll buy a productivity software producer, because our great strength is distribution. So after I took over, we created an affiliated labels program where we, instead of buying companies, would give them distribution rights and have them pay us for the distribution rights. And that's what EA did as well. Well, the prior management's approach was just literally buy the business. So when I got there, I had to deal with the productivity software that wasn't working very well, trying to figure out how to make GameStar an important part of our business, integrating Infocom, which was off on a track, and it's over in the museum here. They had created a database called Cornerstone, which people later named Tombstone. Because it was a $500 business enterprise-oriented database from a text adventure company.
Yes, it's time for another extreme Bits and Bytes segment this month. We've got tons of stuff to cover, so let's just get into it. You thought it would never happen. The crackdown of using digital samples inside of rap music. Well, there used to be that it was pretty generous. I mean, people were taking half of movie soundtracks and remixing them into new songs, or rap songs in this case. There became something called the 7-second rule, and I don't know if this was ever like a legal law. I'm no lawyer. But apparently, as long as the sample was less than 7 seconds, it was permitted. And the basis of tons of music are reusing sound samples from video games, from movies. Hell, they did a Bruce Springsteen version of Secret Garden with half of the damn soundtrack of Jerry Maguire in it. It was very popular. It made that song in the top 10, which is really funny because when they played the top 10 on like Casey Kasem or something, they weren't allowed to play the remix, so they had to play the original song, which nobody was listening to. They were all listening to the special Jerry Maguire mix. That was like the most priceless thing in the world, but I'm not going to get too segued on that. However, Namco sued Little Flip over sampling Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man sound effects on his song. Wow. The lawsuit alleges the sampled portions of the songs were never cleared and cited the song contains references to guns, drugs, and profanity. Namco is seeking millions in damages, something in the range of $10 million. Game Over song is taken from Little Flip's platinum double album, You Gotta Feel Me. That's a scary thing, folks. This stuff's getting out of control. I'm not a big fan of hip-hop or rap, but, this is terrible. This is the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression and the freedom of art are going right down the crapper. That's why it's very important that everybody gets out and votes and makes their voice heard, because we're losing civil liberties every time we turn around, folks, and this is just one example of them. I would be happy if somebody took, a couple seconds of my voice and remixed into it, even if it was bad. I don't know. Anyway, I thought that was a very interesting piece, and it really spoke a lot about where our society is right now. I'm sorry, that's scary stuff to me. Okay, what else do we got? Coin-Op TV. Now, I didn't get a chance to actually look at this, but I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention since we're recording for the show. Coin-Op TV is basically a web TV show tribute to Coin-Op video games. Very interesting. The items that they have online right now, the episodes, are interviewing Dwayne Richards. It's some sort of a... it doesn't say what he's done, why they interviewed him. Bowen Kerins, pinball guy, And Walter Day, our good friend Walter Day from Twin Galaxies, got an interview. And, of course, they have to have this hot, wet bitch that runs around doing this interview. I don't understand why sex has to be brought into video games at all. But, hey, what do I know? I never did understand Tomb Raider either. But, hey, worth a look. If you guys have impressions, write in. I'd be curious. I just don't have time to sit and watch through all the shows. But Taryn Southern is her name. Now, tell me that's not made up. Okay, moving right along. Our good friend Jack's Pacific is not going to be crying, apparently, this holiday season. Their stocks went up from 35 cents to 95 cents in the third quarter, which shows that a lot of people are being taken by Jack's products. You understand, Jack's has licenses to Care Bears, Cabbage Patch Kids, WWE, at least they used to. That's another story. Justice League, SpongeBob SquarePants, and of course all of these classic games. You can't walk down a game aisle now at the store and not see Crayola. Crayola's got a TV game. It's not made by Jack's, but Jack's started this whole mass phenomenon. Remember when everyone was getting pissed because cartridges were taking up too much room and everybody kind of got into the multi-cart thing? Well, now, not only do you have these big instruments, these big handheld things, you only get like 2 or 3 games or even 1 game per handheld. Who's going to have room for all that crap? Unless it really is just that novelty that people are just going to throw them away or play them for a little while and then deep six them. I don't know. What can I tell you? All I know is Jack's making money hand over fist in their holiday season. There was CNN or CNN Money, I think, was saying that the Jack's controller, I can't remember which one off the top of my head, one of them was the top 5 most coveted items for Christmas. So I guess you better be buying them up now, folks, if you want that coveted item for Christmas. Along with that stupid MPEG player, the video player that played JPEGs and MP3s. Can't remember who puts it out, but it's pretty pricey, and it's like hit clips all over again. And the Game Boy Advance videos, I don't understand the phenomenon there. I don't get it, but maybe someone can explain it to me. Watching 3-minute cartoons on a $50 cartridge, I don't know. It doesn't add up. It makes sense if you could convert your own stuff to them, right? Because then you could take new stuff with you. But 3 minutes, 4-minute cartoon, I don't know. I don't get it. Just riding the digital wave, as it were. Yeah, good friend Jack's Pacific. Okay, what else do we got here? Oh, speaking of Jack's Pacific, another related story. WWE sues toy maker, video game company, Jack's Pacific. Apparently, there was some sort of a bribery scheme involving a lucrative license deal for toys and games based on wrestling stars like The Rock. Apparently, WWE keeps very tight controls over their licenses, and this just wasn't good. In fact, it was so bad, this news, that on the news of this lawsuit, which could be an amazing amount of cash, an amazing loss of material for Jack's Pacific, which wouldn't hurt my feelings at all, their stocks dropped 26% that day. Damn, that they had that announcement. That's pretty heavy. So interesting to watch the giant rise and watch the giant fall, right? Could be fun. Let me see here. I'm going to save that one for later on. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this Swedish all-girl gaming team that's getting a lot of press. I don't get it, There have been groups of gamers, these, I don't even know what you call these guys, these clans, right? The clans, that's what they're called. And there have been tons of these things, and they've been around for years and years and years. But you know what? You get young wet bitches dressed up in slutty outfits, and they get press. Go figure. And this is just, you know that they're not serious about it. I mean, I'm looking through this article, and of course I'll post a link. I'm not saying that there's not female gamers, folks, okay? But anybody who's been to like a Magic convention or a video game convention, not something like E3 that gets a lot of the press chicks floating around it, right? But the real hardcore things, they don't look like the pictures you're seeing here, folks. I mean, these are hand pruned. Of course, they said, this is funny. Let me read some of this. Hang on. I just can't get enough of this. Let's see. The girls take their gaming very seriously. This squad has a professional coach, manager, and Olympian-like training schedule. This sounds like media crap to me. They practice online for 5 hours a day, 6 days a week outside of their regular studies and work. On the eve of competitions, they physically come together, cram during all-night Counter-Strike killing sessions. It's so different playing with girls because you can talk about everything, said Sophie Sandiger, codename Zelina. You can have a really good relationship outside the game. Everybody understands you. It's like having sisters. The members of this team range anywhere from, let's see, what are the ages here? 16 to 25. So good news, all of you geeks that spend 18 hours a day playing Half-Life. Good news. We found dates for the prom for you. Outstanding. Okay, what else do we got here? Oh, yes, 30th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons. Yeah, I know Brian's going to be totally hip about this, but I'm going to give you a link here. Fans mark the 30th anniversary of the fantasy role-playing game. And let's be honest, without Dungeons & Dragons, 3/4 of the fantasy video games that you've seen, they wouldn't be around, folks. Neverwinter Nights, EverQuest. That's based on Forgotten Realms, folks, and there would be no Forgotten Realms if there was no Dragonlance, and there would have been no Dragonlance without Dungeons & Dragons. So any of you fantasy lovers should light a candle or do whatever the hell it is you do to commemorate, because Dungeons & Dragons has made an indelible mark in the past. Some people travel thousands of miles to play in these tournaments. It's just crazy. Wizards of the Coast, of course, owns that now, not TSR. I bet TSR is really pissed that they dropped that property, because Wizards of the Coast got to be making mad fat cash. And there have been tons of Dungeons & Dragons marketing things and tons of spin-offs. It's interesting. And for any of you who played real Dungeons & Dragons back in the old days, I'm not talking about that goofy crap where you dressed up in costumes and hacked away at each other with cardboard swords. I'm talking about the people who got into it more as a discipline, as a social outlet. You guys know who you are. And this influenced so much stuff that came out later on, you know. TSR built an entire library of fantasy games. SSI, TSR, all of them owe their asses to Dungeons & Dragons, which is really funny because so many people who look down at fantasy, look down at role-playing. I don't think that you would have seen a Lord of the Rings movie without the popularity and success of the Dungeons & Dragons franchise and the sheer amount of fantasy people that game inspired. You know, most people hated the Dungeons & Dragons movie. I didn't mind it so much. They're going to take another stab at that, by the way. We'll see how that turns out. But, I mean, movies, video games, licensed video games, unlicensed video games, definitely something worth taking a minute and reflecting back on. I didn't even think about it until I saw it. I didn't realize that Dungeons & Dragons was 30 years old, but heaven forbid how old I must be, because I was playing it at the beginning. Whew, old. Yes, a little Game Boy Advance news. Tron 2.0 killer app is shipping for the Game Boy Advance. And this looks like pretty good stuff here. It's an isometric adventure. There was a PC version of Tron 2.0, which was, of course, a first-person shooter. No surprise there. But it's all kind of third-person. They've got some first-person stuff in there. There's tons of different articles about it. The one thing that is worthwhile about this particular game is it does include, for the first time ever, and this is a cool thing, anytime it's a first time ever in video games, you got to bring it up. This is the first time ever that the arcade version of Tron will be available to play outside of the arcade. Well, other than MAME, of course, but I'm talking like totally legit being able to play Tron. You'll be able to play Tron and Discs of Tron as part of the Tron 2.0 Game Boy Advance title. Now, if the emulation's good, which I've heard early reports that the emulation's pretty damn good, it might be worth getting it just to be able to play Tron at home, play Tron on the handheld. The music, the grid bugs. I'm sorry, Tron has a very special place in my heart. The movie, the video game. I'm hoping that they may even consider making that second movie they were talking about. I don't know. Anyway, there's a couple of there's some nice battle modes where you can play light cycles against each other, all sorts of good stuff. So it's worth checking it out, and we'll certainly have a full review of it after I manage to get a hold of one, and I'll tell you all about it because I'm excited to play Tron 2.0. What else do we got here? You got about $8,000 kicking around because if you thought that big giant flight yoke thing, I can't remember, was it Steel something or another that they had for Xbox, where the flight control was like $500, you can now get a cockpit racing controller. Cockpit racing controller for your home console for the PlayStation called the Sirius Racer Pro. $7,250 for when you absolutely positively don't need a plasma TV. Get one of these guys. Yeah. I'm going to let you guys just kind of read that one on your own. If you need a $7,200 console add-on, seek help. Seek help, yeah. Yeah. What else do we got in here? I'm holding that one off. Nope, that's part of the last one. That's part of the last one. What else have I got in here? A book from Singaris Publishing. Singaris? They should have like pronunciation guides for some of us. Singaris Publishing is releasing a book called Game Console Hacking, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, Atari, and Game Park 32. Let's see. Let me give you kind of an overview. Hacks include revive your retro console, turn your 2600 into a fully featured PC, hack your PlayStation 2 to boot code from the memory card, experiment with the Game Park 32. Let's see. Create an arcade-style Atari 5200 controller or transform the 2600 stick into one that can be used by left-handed players. How useful is that? Run Linux on your Xbox. Install an Afterburner LCD on your Game Boy Advance. Cartridge slot fixer for the Nintendo NES. There's a bunch of other stuff in here, but I'll let you take a look at it. Very interesting, and people say that nobody hacks their Xbox. Well, there you go. They're publishing books left and right about it. This is like the fourth book I've seen on how to hack your Xbox. No one was interested in hacking any of the other game consoles really until Xbox came along. Interesting point. Here's something that I'm not exactly sure how to feel about it. BioWare, the makers of Neverwinter Nights, very popular RPG, is going to create commercial mods available for download off the net. Looks like they're going to range, I saw a price in here somewhere. Basically, the idea is they're going to have a store that you can download commercial quality mods, and in the future, they're going to have an outlet for people to sell their own mods online. Now, I imagine if there's some sort of a quality control situation in here, the problem may not get out of hand. And as long as we're talking about an outright sales, I guess I'm all up for that. It looks like the modules, here's the price, anywhere from $4.99 to $7.99. Okay, well, that's pretty reasonable. They're finally taking the concept of not releasing Neverwinter Night 2K5 and simply adding on to the game, i.e. changing team rosters and graphics, by selling you mods. So this is sort of like the data disc thing that you can buy online. As long as it doesn't take a subscription methodology, I'm totally good with that. The more I think about it, $7.99 is not unreasonable to basically get a whole new adventure. You know, if you're a Champions of Norath fan, or, you know, Baldur's Gate 2 on PlayStation 2, if you're a big fan of those things, and you could buy a whole new game, you know, a whole new adventure of that for $8, that's not a bad deal. So maybe this is the right way to go. I'm all for it. I'm all for companies making money. I'm all for consumers getting what they want. This seems to be pretty reasonable. So we'll see what happens. I'm more concerned that they will make this a open season for, how should I put this, the weekend people who throw together mods. I mean, there are good mods that weekend people throw together. I don't want to diss on all of them. But let's be honest. How many people have started a mod for something and never finished it? I'm totally guilty of that. Hell, I haven't even released Dino Eggs yet, and it's been like 7 years or something, right? But when you're asking somebody to part with cash and you're putting basically your name on it, there's got to be some form of content control here. You're not going to want to run around playing Neverwinter Nights, hacking off the head of Homer Simpson and listening to don't, in some infinite loop because the modders didn't check their code. Or maybe you do. I don't know. That might actually be kind of cool. Take like cartoon characters and put them in a mod and hack off their heads. Homer takes 200 points damage. I don't know. Maybe I'm onto something there. But anyway, you get the idea. We'll see how that goes. But interesting little story. I'll send you a link, of course, to that. Let's see here. What else do I have? Let's see. Here we go. I'm not a big sports game fan. And I like arcade-style sporting games. I like games where I don't have to think about stats, and I don't have to know 17 million different plays and understand this and understand that. I want to get in NFL Blitz style and just kick the living crap out of everybody. Give me Speedball 2 Brutal Deluxe. That's a game I can understand. But we have an article here, 10 things that need to change in sports games. Interesting read. If you're into sports games, go ahead and hop into that and check that out. Interesting little article. Finally, the last thing I want to address, and I was going to address this in an editorial commentary, but I think I'm going to do it here in Bits and Bytes because I have several articles relating to it. Advertisement in video games. There is a new threat to the sanity of video game players, and that is advertisements in video games. I know what you're thinking. What's the big deal? Right? If you played pole position, you could see ads for Dig Dug on the side of the road as you drove by. I don't have a problem with people plugging their own crap. If you look at my game Kablooey Redux, and you look at that, you'll see an ad for VS Ball basically spray painted on the wall. I don't have a problem at all with websites having banners to their own stuff. I don't have a problem with games having advertisements to their other games. That makes sense to me. However, I have 3 articles sitting in front of me, and I've seen 2 other ones. These are just the ones I happen to have saved. That advertising agencies are tired of us leaving the tube and leaving the movies to come and play video games where they're not getting to put their stupid ads in front of us. Well, if you haven't already noticed, games are starting to go ahead and throw in product placement. And now it's different in a movie. Anytime you see a product in a movie, be it a Taco Bell, a Subway, a Coca-Cola bottle, right? Someone's paying for that, right? Coca-Cola is usually paying somebody to put that Coke bottle on the screen. It's gotten so bad that if you watch movies over, say, the last 5 years, the product placement used to be very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Very light. You'd see, if you watched some of the older games, if you watch some of the older movies, you would see products and you'd go, wow, I wonder what Subway had to pay for that. Because they're coming out of a Subway, right? Well, now it's like a Pepsi truck has to drive by like every 5 minutes while these 2 people are talking at a table, and you're going, damn, could that be any more obvious, right? If you're racing in a racing game and you're racing cross country, and there are banners on the side of the road, there are billboards on the side of the road. From a game point of view, to have an advertisement on that billboard, that almost makes sense. Okay, so if it's not for your own game, the games can offset their $57 million budgets and throw ads in there. Okay. I guess so. But here's the problem with that. As soon as ad revenue becomes a main staple in video games, it's no longer going to be arbitrary. They're going to actually go out of their way to find ways of putting advertisement in video games. And it's going to go, trust me, if this takes off, it will go so far off the hook, people will be, even the stupid people, and there are many of them out there, even the stupid people are going to go, what the hell is this? Right? You're going to be in Doom 3 or Doom 17 or whatever it is by the time this takes off. You're going to be in this game, and every time you turn around to a computer screen, there's going to be an ad banner running on it. Every time you look at something, it's not going to have a soda machine. It's going to be a Pepsi machine. When you go to the vending machine, you're not going to see odd assortments of colored candies in there. You're going to see Milky Way. You're going to see Snickers. You're going to see Oompa Loompas. All right? That's what's going to happen. And just as television has altered itself to fit more advertising, just as TiVo is looking at how to force advertisements in front of you, as everything is looking on how they can develop cash at your expense, mind you. Now, I'm not talking about playing a game for free and seeing ads in it. No. No, I'm not talking about branded games like Candy Stand that David Crane works on. Okay, for those of you who have missed all of that, David Crane makes, he works with some of the other old Activision guys, and they create branded games for companies like Pepsi and Jelly Belly, and basically here's how it works. The company comes to them and says, we want a video game that features our products in it. And then what they do is they take that game and they give it away for free on their website. So you're getting a free game, and they're getting to push advertising at you, right? Well, okay, I'm okay with that. Nothing's free. Someone's paying the bill, all right? But when I hawk out $50 for a video game, I sure as hell don't want to see ads. I do not want to know. To me, that's double dipping, right? You're making my $50, and every time I drive by an ad, it's like a click-through, right? Every time that I drive by an ad, you're sending something back to the advertiser saying that this many eyeballs passed by that banner, because you need to get paid. And click-throughs or impressions, as they are in web advertising terms, are the only way you're going to get that money. Okay? So, first of all, video games are going to have to start requiring an internet connection because they want to send back statistics about you. Right? They want to send back how many times that advertisement, right? How many times that advertisement was seen. You just had your ass tied to the internet. Even if all you want to do is play a nice solo game, you don't want to play multiplayer, trust me. And you know why you're going to have to be online? Because they're not only going to put ads in the games, and they're not only going to tailor, games are going to become an advertising vehicle. And that's not the worst part, folks. There's a worst part coming up. The worst part is they're going to give the ad companies the ability to go into your system and change the ads at their discretion. Oh, what, is the ad for your last month's game old? Well, we're going to give you the power to go to an ad server. Oh, tell me this just doesn't make your skin crawl. And update the ads that get shoveled to your Need for Speed 27. Yeah, not only are they going to get transmitted back your, quote, viewing habits, but they're also going to get to change the ad on the fly. I'm telling you, there is a gruesome thing coming here. And people, we got to stop this. This is not a good thing. If you're going to give away the game, I'll look at advertisements all day long if that's a game I want to play. In fact, you can even use subliminals because I'm getting the game for free. But now you're starting to get into that triple and quadruple billing model that I was telling you guys about, 3-4 years ago, right here on the show? They've actually found a way to make money on you 3 or 4 times per game. Absolutely. You buy the game system. Can't use your PC that you already own. You have to have the game system because exclusivity, right? I've ranted about that. So you got to buy the console. You buy the game. There's another $50. You got to buy your Xbox Live, right? You got to pay for that internet connection. Yeah, that's benefiting the company, right? So they're making that money directly. Then they're going to make money off you watching ads. It's bad enough that I pay $8.50 American to go see a movie, and I got to sit through 14 minutes of commercials before I watch the movie. I almost want to get there 20 minutes late so I don't have to watch commercials. Hell, I paid money to be advertised to. What's that all about? And trust me, guys, I'm telling you, you can tell me all day long that it's okay for ads to be in video games. It's part of the realistic life that we live. If you go out on the street, there are ads around you. So it's okay in a first-person shooter if you're running down the street and see ads. Don't give me that crap, because we all know that it will not stop there. If there's real money to be made in this market, you will be playing advertising video games. We're not going to call them first-person shooters. We're going to call them ad-person shooters, because that's what you're going to be seeing is ads. They're going to have ads on your freaking weapons, people. Freaking Remington and Beretta are going to have ads on your pistol. You think it's not going to happen? Damn it! How many times have I been wrong? Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying that if advertising in video games takes off, like everybody's talking about, let me tell you what, it's going to get ugly. And I've got 3 articles here for you to read all about it. And you tell me what you think about this. I'd be curious, because this is gruesome stuff here, people. This is not just TiVo's downloading 30 minutes of undesired stuff and not letting you delete it and forcing you to watch ads. This is something even different. This is even worse. You're paying 4 times to watch ads. Help me out. I don't understand. Anyway, that is going to finish up our segment of Bits and Bytes for this month. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be back next month with even more news and information from around the web and around the world, right here on Retro Gaming Radio. We were speaking to Billy Mitchell at the Classic Gaming Expo 2004, and we were discussing with him the fact that so many people thought that his interview came off as arrogant and basically being an a-hole. So, we're going to have a new contest. Billy graciously donated some of his special hot sauce, the Billy Mitchell hot sauce, with the custom Pac-Man logo on it. Very cool stuff. We're going to give away a bottle to the person who can best explain to us why Billy Mitchell is an ass. So send in your letters. We're going to post a link for you, a special little form you can fill out, telling us why you think that Billy Mitchell is an ass. We're going to read some of your letters online in the coming months, and then we'll give away this collector bottle of hot sauce to the winner. Maybe we'll throw in a couple other prizes, too. We'll see what some of our illustrious donators have. But we haven't had a contest in a while, and this one seemed like a lot of fun. So check out the Retro Gaming Radio page, and we'll try to post some pictures of the hot sauce and give you guys a little more information about the contest. But we figured it was time to start something up, and this seemed really funny because Billy about fell off his chair when he thought that you guys all thought he was an arrogant ass. So let's do that. Check out the Retro Gaming Radio homepage for more information. This month, like last month, we're going to reveal to you the location of one of the Easter eggs in the Year 5 Retro Gaming Radio DVD-ROM title. If you go to the Shows menu, and then select the show October 2003, put your mouse pointer on top of the R in Radio at the top banner, move your mouse down about an inch, and you'll highlight the secret area, which will take you to another one of Brian's awesome mixes. So that is your secret Easter egg 7 of 8, not 7 of 9, calm down. 7 of 8, this month's special Retro Gaming Radio DVD-ROM Easter egg. Join us next month and we'll reveal yet another location right here on Retro Gaming Radio. This month we're going to look at the long-awaited Midway's Arcade Treasures number 2 for the PlayStation 2. As you know, the original Midway Arcade Treasures did not receive high rankings from this journalist, basically because the sound sucked. I mean, the emulation was spotty at best, the sound was bad. It wasn't a great package. You can listen to an older show and get the whole review of that. So naturally, I was incredibly apprehensive about looking at Midway Arcade Treasures number 2, just expecting to be knocked down yet again by a promise from the man. So what is in Midway's Arcade Treasures 2? For those of you who aren't following this particular thread, Midway Arcade Treasures is one of the standard compilation of classic games that they put together about once a year or every time they change platforms, usually putting the same games on the same collections over and over again. I will say as of late they've been trying to put on some different games. When I say different, unfortunately, I mean newer games. And of course, the reason for that is obvious. Today's generation, gimme owning Xbox and PlayStation 2, don't want to play Zookeeper. They want to play some digitized graphics fighting game like Primal Rage or Mortal Kombat 3. So it's not hard to tell that these classic game compilations are slowly going to become not classic pretty soon. Classic by our definition of classic. As you know, I don't believe that classic is something that pertains to somebody's particular age. Classic is an era of gaming. That sweet spot of gaming between the late 70s, early 80s. That's classic gaming. No matter how old you are or what your first console was, classic gaming is a time frame. Anyway, enough of the opinion there. Let's take a look, though, at what games this does offer, because there are a couple of new titles here that are actually worth looking at. Unfortunately, they don't all pan out to be worth playing. Most of these are like System 2 games from Atari, which is really nice because we haven't seen a lot of those. APB, Arch Rivals, Championship Sprint, Cyberball 2072, Gauntlet 2, Hard Drivin', Cosmic Cruiser, Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3, Narc, Pit Fighter, Primal Rage, Rampage World Tour, Spy Hunter 2, Timber, Total Carnage, running on the Robotron engine, Wacko, Wizard of War, Xenophobe, and Zybot. So we got a couple of fairly decent titles in here. Well, how do they stack up? Well, for those of you who have enjoyed my review of Midway Arcade Treasures #1, okay, I don't care what review you read of it. Everyone said the Egyptian hieroglyphics interface blew Billy Goat Gruff. And you know what? It did blow Billy Goat Gruff. And there's nothing more frustrating than not only having a game compilation package that's lacking in a lot of areas, but then to turn around and find out that it sucks to try to get to what you want to begin with. It's crazy. So, on a good note, the menu system is much better. It's much more clean. There's a couple of areas of it that, being a UI guy, that it's like, well, why can't I get to the bonuses from the gallery? That doesn't make much sense. But you know what? I'm not even going to nitpick on that. We're here to play the games and look at the extras. I'm going to only look at a handful of games. Not every game on this list was of interest to me, like Arch Rivals. You know, I played NBA Jam like everybody else. I played Super Basketball. Didn't really get into Arch Rivals. So it's not really fair for me to talk about the games that I didn't have some sort of an intimate connection to. And I haven't played enough to give you an honest evaluation of how well they stack up against their original cousins. Let's take a look at this. The first one I looked at was Zybots. Now, I owned a Zybot stand-up, so it gives me a unique insight into how well the emulation was. I will say that the controls are very good. Being able to use the shoulder buttons, the R1 and L1, to shift your views, it's definitely one of the most positive controlled games. A lot of games, you know, just don't translate well to a home controller. And anytime you have something that you have to grab and spin, well, you know, there you have it. But Zybot's controlled very well. It took me like a good level or two to get to the feel of it and to bring myself to use the controls, but it worked. And that was a surprising thing. That alone gives credit to Zybots. But what about the emulation? That's what we really care about. Now, the emulation is actually pretty good in Zybots. I did not notice anything particularly glaring. Outside of the sound has some issues. And I don't know what it is about sound and emulation, but even with MAME and outside emulators, sound is always the last thing to get working. It's always the last thing that gets perfected. It's the last thing that gets worked on. And it seems that these arcade compilations, especially the PlayStation 2 ones, never get the kind of treatment they deserve when it comes to sound, which is too bad. However, unlike some of the other titles in this package, the Zybot sound isn't enough to piss you off to where you don't want to play the game. I actually enjoyed playing Zybots for the first time in a long time. It was a good time. I got to play it on my big screen Wega with the speakers turned way up. The music still played right. Overall, I am pleased with the Zybots translation, with the exception of the sound. Now, is it a game worth buying the pack alone for? No, of course not. But there are other titles in here. Let's take another look. Gauntlet 2. Now, I also owned a Gauntlet 2 machine, which gives me that unique insight. And I got to tell you, aside from the what looks like a graphic glitch when you change at the beginning screen, when you change which character you want to be, there's just some sort of a graphic glitch there. But other than that, the sound sounds spot on. The game plays right. The sounds may be a little tinny, maybe a little hollow. I'm not completely sure if that's the fault of the emulation or if it's just the way my sound system's set up. I'm set up to watch movies, not play games on my audio system. So, anyway, but Gauntlet 2, you know, this is good. It's good stuff. That's a testament to they did a good job. Again, is Gauntlet 2 a game that you would buy this package for? Probably not. So let's look at some of the other titles on here. Hard driving. Now, you know, I never really got into the hard driving craze. A lot of people did. I guess I was already kind of driving at the time, I think, if I remember right, when hard driving came out, so there wasn't that gruesome desire to play a driving simulator, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, but let's take a look at it. The first thing about hard driving, if you've been playing it in MAME, say using a keyboard or a joystick, the first thing you'll notice is hard driving is definitely an analog game. Analog steering, analog gas, and to play with a digital type controller with a keyboard and on-off scenario, hard driving is just not the same game. I will say that with the analog controls on the PlayStation 2 controller, hard driving was a little bit more fun to play than I have played it in MAME, say, in the past. Unfortunately, it's still hard driving. I had a really good version of it on the Amiga, which I played. Of course, I didn't have the analog. So I played enough of it at home that, I don't know. To me, the concept of what makes hard driving work is it's an environmental game. You got to sit in the cabin. You got to have a foot on the gas pedal. You got to have a steering wheel, the gear shift. Those things are what make hard driving, not the emulation of the game, which it's sort of weird that they choose games that the controls make the game. Like another title in here, Championship Sprint. In Championship Sprint, the analog controls are good, but it ain't no steering wheel, folks. And to me, that really kills these sort of games, and I don't understand why they would put those out. Now, what they could do is they could manufacture a cheap steering wheel, right? Something that you could lay on your lap or something, or squeeze between your knees, whatever, and release hard driving, Championship Sprint, Road Blasters, games that would benefit from a steering wheel. Now, maybe Jax is going to do that, and of course they'll mess up the emulation, but those are the sort of games you have to have the right controls for. The one thing I did notice is hard driving sounds appeared like they jumped out every now and then. They were good. They sounded good most of the time. But there was something about them that just didn't quite sound right from time to time. But overall, in terms of the emulation and whatnot, it looks like it was pretty well on. Let's see, what else we got in here? The Mortal Kombats. First of all, Midway managed to piss a lot of people off by jerking Mortal Kombat 1 off the game collection so that they could put it as a bonus buy for the collector's set of the new Mortal Kombat game that they just put out. If you bought the collector's set, you got Mortal Kombat 1 on a separate bonus disc. And everybody was really pissed off that they couldn't have Mortal Kombat 1 on here. Well, Mortal Kombat 1 is definitely part of history, and it's part of the classics thing and all that good stuff. Universally speaking, when you ask somebody who likes Mortal Kombat what their favorite version of Mortal Kombat was, they're undoubtedly going to say Mortal Kombat 2. Everybody loves the Baraka. But anyway, so they do include 2 and 3. And, for the most part, they play okay. They feel okay play-wise. They do run a little bit fast, especially Mortal Kombat 3. Definitely felt like it ran 10 to 15% too fast. 2 felt like it was a little fast, but not as bad as MK3. What really sucks is, like, in MK3, the audio is very unbalanced. Instead of hearing the loud, boisterous, sounds from the players, you hear the background sound. You hear the wind blowing really loud. It just seemed like it was kind of unnerving. Now, I did not go in and check and see if you could balance that audio out yourself, but it seems to be one of those glaring errors that these packages continue to seem to make. It's like they don't bother bringing anybody in that's ever played these games for real to come in and make sure that they didn't mess them up. I don't understand. It's like they skip quality assurance. It's like, you know what? We've been emulating these on every platform for the last 10 years. We don't need to have anybody check it out. What the hell's that all about? Right? So Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3. Narc. Right? Narc is one of those golden chalice games as far as I'm concerned. Narc left an indelible impression on my psyche and the psyche of a lot of other kids who got to blow up drug dealers and watch their body parts fly all over the place. Undoubtedly one of the earliest, most violent video games ever. Of course, our good buddy Eugene Jarvis was responsible for Narc, which, once again, the Robotron developer proves that he has what it takes to make different genres of games. It's too bad that his recent game, Target Terror, which is at the arcades now, by the way, making tons of cash, is really just an Area 51 knockoff, which is too bad. I expected more from Eugene Jarvis. But That's neither here nor there. Someday I'll get to interview him and I'll have him explain to me why Target Terror is Area 51 with a different skin. But this isn't an Area 51 Target Terror review. How is Narc? Considering the fact that Narc was originally one of the games that you benchmarked MAME with. In other words, when you got a new computer and you put MAME on it, playing Narc on it was how you could tell whether or not you had a good processor and a good system. It was a benchmark product. I really thought that Narc would suck on a PlayStation 2 because there's so many games that played incorrectly or played too slow. They say, oh, the PlayStation 2 is not powerful enough to play these high-end 2D emulated games. I beg to differ. Narc, somebody sat down and did a good job with Narc. I get the feeling somebody at Digital Eclipse really loves Narc. They put plenty of elbow grease into making sure that during play that the frame rate didn't drop. When the bad guys digitize in at the beginning, you know, when they're doing like the little mission overview and the bad guys digitize in, it slows down a little bit. But you know what? I think it still slows down on my P2 or my P4 2.26. I think it still slows down. It's just part of the emulation. I don't know what they did for that. Must be some on-the-fly pixelization thing. I think every single version of Narc, no matter where you're playing it, be it on the PC, be it on a console, wherever you're playing it, those pixelized guys that digitize in, it's slow. But how does it play? It plays awesome. We finally have enough buttons. We finally have a decent layout. We have good audio. I didn't hear any problems in the audio. The emulation seems spot on. I played a lot of Narc, people. And if there's anything wrong with Narc, I can't find it. Aside from that little bit of slowdown. Even when you got a bunch of guys on the screen, bunch of dogs on the screen, doesn't seem to slow down. Brilliant piece of work. Now, is Narc worth going out and buying this package alone for? If you're as big a whore for Narc as I am, and you want to play it on your Wega, and you haven't got a white box hooked up, you don't have Xbox or whatever playing MAME on that, yes, I would gladly pay $20 to play Narc on the big screen, emulated as well as it is. That's the thumbs up part of this package. Pit Fighter. You either love Pit Fighter or you hate Pit Fighter. I've never met anybody that says, Pit Fighter's okay. It's like Pit Fighter sucks or Pit Fighter was the bomb. There's nothing in between. And I don't understand why. I love Pit Fighter. I think Pit Fighter's a good game. People seem to want to say that, you know, Pit Fighter was sort of a Mortal Kombat wannabe or you know. Well, you got to understand, Pit Fighter was first. Right? Pit Fighter was the first digitized fighting game. And it's really more akin to Final Fight than it is to, say, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. And I think what really bugged people is that it wasn't Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, that it was sort of an arena fighting game. And I think that really threw a lot of people, and they expected something different than what they got. And I don't understand. I think the game's great. I love the power-up pill. I like beating the living crap out of the guys. I even love the little bit in the middle, the grudge match. You know, I like it. I don't understand what people's problem is. Now, here's the problem with it in Midway's Arcade Treasures, number 2. The game runs at least 2 times its normal speed. I don't know if somebody over at Digital Eclipse was on the fatty that day, or if somebody over there said, you know what, gamers will play this game more if it's running like Street Fighter 2 Hyper Speed World Class Criterion Re-Release Edition Turbo. If we make it so fast, maybe people will play it. I don't know what they were thinking. I've never ever run across a situation where emulation runs too fast. It always runs too slow. It's always sound sucks. It's always no sound. It's always bad controllers. It's always no cocktail flipping is installed. It's always something. I've yet to see a video game in emulation where somebody says, you know, it just runs too fast. Well, Pit Fighter runs too damn fast. And the game's completely unplayable. I don't care how much you love Pit Fighter, you will not play it in this collection. So if you're thinking, Pit Fighter, that's a good reason to buy Midway's Arcade Treasures number 2, access denied because it sucks. Speaking of fighting games that people either loved or hated, Primal Rage is on this collection. Now, a lot of people, for some reason, Primal Rage came out at the wrong time. I think there was a changeover in the video game industry at that time. Primal Rage got largely unnoticed, and those that did see it looked at the simplistic kind of the controller layout and said, you know what, this isn't going to be a good game. You know, it's claymation-type dinosaur fighting. And if you give it a chance, if you really give Primal Rage a chance and learn some of the moves, learn some of the finishing moves. Hell, I didn't even know there were finishing moves in Primal Rage. I think a lot of people don't know that. Primal Rage is Mortal Kombat with dinosaurs. And it's cool. If you like Mortal Kombat, you should be loving Primal Rage. How does it stack up in the Midway Arcade Treasures number 2? It's good. It might be just a tad too fast. It's hard for me to remember because I haven't played it in a long time, but it felt just a little bit fast. Just a little bit. But the game overall is exactly as I remember it, and I was having a good time. You know, for people who have not given Primal Rage a chance in the last few years, you know what? Give it a look. I mean, it's a real fun fighting game, especially, like I said, go hit the net, grab some moves, figure out how to do them, because some of the stuff's great. Some of the finishing moves are awesome. Definitely worthy of being called a Mortal Kombat-style game. Total Carnage is another one of those Robotron slant Smash TV family games. It's nice and gory. It's like Smash TV in the fact that there's body parts flying all over the place, and your guy gets his chest blown out. Things like that. It's pretty cool. Standard sort of deal. It's sort of like Ikari Warriors meets Smash TV. There's some very clever things in Total Carnage. A lot of people played like the home editions of it. I think the NES had one. I know the Amiga had one, and it blew Billy Goat. But if you actually go back and play the arcade version, there's some pretty clever things in here. There's a password system that lets you skip around the levels. There's lots of gore. I mean, obviously with a name like Total Carnage, you'd expect there to be some gore. But overall, it's good. And again, you've got the dual controls. And that's what really makes games like Smash TV, Robotron, and Total Carnage work out on a home system, is to be able to have that independent firing and moving control. It does run a little bit quick, a little bit fast, as it seems like everything in this collection seems to. But overall, it's pretty good. I wouldn't buy the package for this game, to be honest. But overall, I was pleased. Now let's talk about one of the worst games outside of Pit Fighter, which is completely unplayable. We have another game that is pretty much unplayable that I was chomping at the bit to get a hold of a home version of it. Wizard of War. Wizard of War, I've only seen 2 Wizard of War machines in my entire life. And they came out at a time when it was very impacting. It had speech. It was color. It had unusual sound effects. It had creepy, eerie music. The game was kind of creepy. You know, some of the characters, these big wolves and demon-looking things. It was a very cool game. And I remember, the thing I remember the most about it, which is really funny, I remember the control panel had the player 1 and player 2 buttons were these little, tiny, like, momentary switch buttons. It's like they didn't have enough money to put real arcade buttons in there, so they put these little, tiny, you know, like smaller than a dime buttons on there. Like watch battery. They look like a watch battery. That always stuck with me for some reason. Why they would do that, I don't know. Wizard of War is one of those top-down maze games, and you can play 2-player cooperatively or competitively simply by not choosing at the beginning of the game, well, I want to work together, I don't want to work together. Basically, if you snipe the other guy, you're not playing cooperative anymore. You know, and Wizard of War has a really big following. It's got a real big cult following. Not just myself, a lot of people are into Wizard of War. And boy, did they screw it up. First of all, it runs probably 25% too fast, which is goofy as hell. I don't know what the hell they're thinking about making these things run too fast. And second, the sound samples, and I'm assuming that it's because it's running so fast that the sound samples are the problem. Because they're using samples because if the game was generating the sounds, you wouldn't have this overlapping problem. But the audio samples overlap. They get cut off prematurely. Same thing happens in Mortal Kombat 2 and 3. There's a rhythm of the sounds. When you win a fight and it plays the music and it says fatality or, you know, flawless victory, there's a certain rhythm to that audio that you get to know after you play these games for so long. And Wizard of War is 100% off. I mean, the sounds are short. They don't play sometimes when they're supposed to. They play sometimes when they're not supposed to. They overlap. It's too bad. Wizard of War could have been one of the reasons to buy this package. Instead, it's one of the reasons not to buy the package. It's too bad. Xenophobe. Now, Xenophobe is one of those games that a lot of people haven't even played. And it's an unusual, interesting game, especially if you have more than one person. It's a side-scroller, and you play up to 3 people, where you can do a lot. I mean, you can interact a lot. It had one of those, Tron joysticks with the trigger fire control on it, but it had 2 buttons on the top of it, a left and a right button. And between those 2 buttons and the controls, you can do a lot of cool stuff. I mean, you can change out your weapons. You could pick up items. You could insert items into other items. It was pretty cool, and it had that ultra high-res interlaced kind of thing going on, where you could tell the resolution was really high, had cool music, and the Xenophobe on Midway Arcade Treasures number 2 is pretty good. I mean, I couldn't find anything specifically wrong with it. I think it runs a little fast, but then I got to the point where I just stopped saying to myself, okay, it's going to run fast. Anytime I fired up one of these games. But overall, it's a good thing. If you really like Xenophobe and you've been looking for a version of it, this is pretty good. We didn't talk about Championship Sprint. Championship Sprint is at least running 10 to 15 times too fast. I actually own one of these guys, and I can tell you it's too fast. And the analog control, as I mentioned before when I was talking about hard driving, the analog controls help a lot to make this game almost playable. But there's something about free spinning that wheel that really makes Championship Sprint a game that cannot be played at home, unless you happen to own one or you happen to have a steering wheel hooked up. But the sounds are all good, which impressed me. They did a good job with that. What about the extras? Pretty much every game has a couple of flyers attached to it that you can jump over and zoom into. Pretty nice little system. They're very clean. Somebody spent a lot of time with the digital cleanup on these things. But what about the videos? Now, last time we talked about the videos being absolutely horrible. Well, guess what? Nothing has changed. The videos are still absolutely horrible. The picture quality's better, but they put these guys in an echo chamber and put the microphone on the other side of the room. You can't hear these guys. My daughter was watching me test this thing. She goes, Dad, how come I can't hear him? So I said, because these people suck. They didn't bother putting any time in it. You had Eugene Jarvis sitting right there. And you threw it away by having the microphone on the other side of this frickin' lunchroom that they recorded it in. It's terrible. I was so disappointed, so I wanted to hear Eugene Jarvis. I will tell you, though, of all the videos, there was one that I was particularly happy to find. And that's in the Primal Rage game. They have a video of Easter eggs. They show you all these Easter eggs are inside the game. And that is some funny stuff. I mean, I was simply laughing my ass off at some of these things. In one case, if you haven't played Primal Rage, while you're fighting, there's a bunch of little people running around underneath you. And every now and then one of them steps out and you can smack them or eat them to get health back. Well, if you can actually smack them between 2 of you. And it's like you smack them, you do like a punch, and it hits them, and then they fly back through the air to the other guy, and then he punches and hits him, and the guy flies back across the screen again. If you do this like 2 or 3 times, a frickin' volleyball net slides up in between the 2 of you with some judge or something sitting underneath an umbrella watching, and you're playing like a game of volleyball with the guy. I was dying. I thought it was like the funniest thing I'd ever seen. Of course, a lot of people have never seen that. I certainly hadn't seen it. So to me, that video was one of the best treasures I found on this so-called Midway Arcade Treasures Pack. There are tons of other things to look at. And there, of course, are more games we discussed. This version, this Midway Arcade Treasures number 2, I have a lot of trouble giving my thumbs up because of the total screw-ups of Pit Fighter and Wizard of War. I will tell you that they are making progress. From Midway Arcade Treasures number 1 to number 2, it is increasingly better in terms of overall production quality. Do I say run out and spend $20 on this? If you are a narc freak, yes, go spend $20 on it. If you are a Zybot Xenophobe era freak, definitely. If you want to play a good game of Primal Rage, I'd still recommend it. But if you're looking for some of these games like Mortal Kombat 3, and Pit Fighter, and Wizard of War, I'm going to have to tell you to take a buy on this one. Maybe wait till it hits the bargain bin and you can pick it up for $10. $10 would be a good buy. You know, just for some of these games that are really good and some of the videos. Full price, I can't go along with that. They're getting better. It's just not good enough.
It's time for a 16-bit flashback.
This month, Bryan and myself take a look at the Amiga CD32 game, CD32 Football, or Amiga Football, as it was called. Frankly, I thought this was a pretty cool thing, and Bryan and I got into it during one of our joint recording sessions. I think you'll enjoy it. Here's our review.
Sega.
That's funny. Playbooks.
Is it really easy to pick up?
I think so.
I always get the rapid fire controller.
No, but you can't play rapid fire on here. Nothing's up.
I'm not controlling it.
Okay.
Look at that. Look at all that. Peak soars.
Peak soars. Okay. We're going to be looking today at Amiga CD32 Football. Now, originally this title was going to be out for CDTV. It features a giant assortment of plays. It's a pretty good football game. Plus it has tons of full motion video stuff, which you'll get to hear as we're going. Brian's got the optional control here. He's going to go ahead and set the game up for us. You can probably hear it in the background there.
Like 1 minute, 2 minute quarters.
Like 2 minute quarters here. We're going to set this up.
Set up the NFL Blitz style.
NFL Blitz style.
You gotta get this shit off. Sorry.
Oh man,
I'm
I was
sorry.
enjoying the music too. You suck. That's why you don't get the control that has the. Okay, change the weather too. Let's see what we've got for weather. Let's make it like random or something. I think you can randomize it. Oh,
No.
snow's good.
Snow. We're gonna play in the snow.
We're gonna play in the snow. That'll be elite. Okay.
Then we hit cancel.
Yeah, I think so.
That's weird.
That is weird. Okay, so we're gonna play a game here. We get a nice little. Yeah, we got this coach that comes on the screen here.
Like pond scum in the shower, and I know I'm home.
You can probably hear him in the background.
Do us proud. Pick today's matchup.
It's actually pretty cool because it's like 4096 color video. Which
How many colors?
4096.
Hey, no, 4096.
You can tell it's in ham. You can see the ham fringing.
Wait, pick your team.
Pick your team. Oh, it's my turn to pick my team?
Pick your team.
Who do I got? Are these actually like real team names?
Hell no.
Oh,
LA
okay.
Gold? Stop
I didn't
that.
think so. What? Well, I didn't know.
Rome Gladiators. Pick the Rome Gladiators.
Elite. Oops. God damn it. Oh, there we go.
Oh, you can be the Phoenix Sparrows.
Yeah, I want to be the Phoenix. The Rome Gladiators would probably be more fun. Which button works on this one?
I pushed this button.
Yeah, but I got this other controller. One of the interesting things here is that you can use Sega controllers on the CD32.
Hope I ain't stepping on any.
Now you can play 3 different modes on this thing. You can do arcade, coach, or commissioner.
3 different ways.
I think in commissioner mode you do both the coaching and the arcade.
It's for the tough guy.
Yeah.
Like it's down and dirty.
Yeah, arcade, down and dirty. That's what we want. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start the game. Or unless Brian's going to monkey with the options a little bit.
All right, boss. It's game time. We'll touch base at the half.
Yeah, we'll touch base at the half, which will be in 4 minutes.
Stan Grove here.
Yeah, Stan Grove. This is pretty cool. They get this little TV announcer thing going on. It looks like a newscast.
Plays and you control the action. I tell you, I have been sitting in
This is our
this
Sam
desk
Grove.
for a long time, and I have never seen the kind of heat this CD League has to offer. The stands are full. The scalpers are trying to sell every ticket twice. The locker room is practically on fire. For the latest from the field, let's go down to our colleague in the know, Terry Ellis.
Now this is pretty interesting because these on-site reports are actually different.
Snow is beginning to fall.
It's snowing in LA.
It's snowing in LA.
Keep the passing game to a minimum, as hard as it is to see. Stan?
Look at it.
All
Well
cold.
said, Terry. Now for his own expert view on today's matchup, here's CD All-Star and former running great, Roland Reed.
Is that a real guy?
No, I don't know. I
This
don't.
is my kind of game.
He's a physical black
Everything's
guy.
on the line. No quarter, no mercy. Just mayhem to the final gun.
Just mayhem to the final
That's
gun.
it for
Mayhem to the
for
final
now.
guns.
I'll be back with Roland and Terry for a report at the half.
At the
Until
half.
then,
Now,
this is
I don't know where the
Dave
black guy's
Grohl
at because it's
reminding
windy
you
where
to
she's
stay
at.
tuned for the CD football game of the week.
He's playing from home. He called it in. Okay, now we got the coin toss. Oh, do I get to pick it? Oh, I guess I do. Look at that. I chose tails.
The visiting team will be calling the toss.
That's me.
Tails is called.
Tails it is.
And the toss is head.
Screw you.
Home team
Dang.
has won the toss and elected to receive.
Always.
Visiting team will be kicking off and defending the North goal.
Dude,
He
you
looks
can't-
so gay. He does not realize how gay he looks.
Yeah, he does.
That's cool.
Hey, you can position your kickoff on the kick. You can kind of line things up. He's got the.
Oh, you got the little. He's got the little burst of speed there.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all good. It gives us a little play-by-play here. Now, obviously, these are not licensed teams, but it does show their stats and everything else. So I can't pick while he's picking his deal. They do have pages and pages of plays, and the game also comes with play books because there's like 80-something freaking plays you can do in here.
So you have to do the quick pick because you just know what I'm going to do right now.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess I don't get to pick a play. Would you try to run?
Great hit.
I don't know.
Yeah, tackle by Anthony Cleaver.
Push 'em out, speed 'em up, dash their brains. Bloody nose, broken toes, win that game.
the hell?
That's my kind of cheerleaders. Let me see here. I just pick something. You can go back, I think, with one of the buttons. You can go back instead of the quick pick.
I'll take the quick pick because I don't want you to know my.
Yeah. Do you have the book? How you can do a quick pick if you don't know the book? Well, you ran out of time, biatch. Don't be teasing me like that. Well, I'm going to come back and sack your ass.
I don't know what I'm
pass.
doing. How do you pick who you want to throw it to?
I think you hold down the button and then you choose which player by the controller. Because it is a 2-button game. It's not 4-button like a regular CD32 title. I pick a little. Let's take a peek at how many. We got a metric ass load of plays.
Yeah, this is like more than Madden back then.
Third down.
You took too long.
Yeah, it took too long. I was denied access. What happened? Did you drop it?
Where do you press to throw the ball?
I
I
don't
must
know.
be pressing the wrong button to throw the ball.
You know how long it's been since I played this?
Thanks a lot, Shane.
Hey, shut up.
And then you proceed to bulldoze over me.
No, I'm just picking crap at random.
Yeah, right. Let's see.
Yeah, see, this is how all the other ones do it. You still have to pick, but normally you would pick on the same screen. Damn. They're tight on time.
Dang, did that?
Did you say punt?
Yeah.
You're punting. And bring up the. Oh, that's not. Oh, yeah, baby. Give me that. Did you catch your own punt?
No, you downed the ball.
I downed it. I suck. Turn off the music, dude. There's like no sound in this thing.
Okay, how do you go back to the start?
I don't know. Probably. Yeah, we're just kind of mugging through this. I'm not sure you can actually. Just keep going.
Can't hear the sound effects with all the damn music.
That's because you're deaf.
First down.
Out of time. Third down.
Oops, I went outside.
Damn!
5-yard penalty.
5-yard penalty. I just pick something at random here. They should have a random one. That'd be elite.
I thought that's what quick pick is.
Oh. No, quick pick. Quick pick means you choose it out of the playbook
Oh.
because you know the plays by number. Stop butting me. You teasing slut.
You have to press the button. You dropped the ball.
Did I go to offense?
You're on offense, dude.
Oh my God!
Did you recover the ball? Yeah, you still got the ball.
I still got the ball. Fine. I thought you could just go up and down on this quick pick thing. Now what? Oh, there we go. Oh.
Don't turn the sound on. Nobody hear anything.
Nobody hear nothing. Fine, just give me something. I'm on defense, dude.
No, you're not.
How come I just picked
Possession. Look at the arrow. Possession is pointing to you.
But yeah, why did I just get to pick a defensive play?
You didn't. You picked offense.
Oh, I suck. All right.
Dude, I swear to God, I think it's.
You think it's random? I don't think so.
Let's consult the manual.
Because you can't change that X. How
Let's
come?
consult the manual. Maybe.
Oh.
Uh-oh, hang on. We're going to look at the manual.
Fumble.
Oh.
Defense falls on the ball.
Nice. Recovered. Let's take a look here. According to the
I got the
instructions.
ball now.
Can you believe this? We actually have instructions for this game. Okay, arcade mode lets you call the plays and control the fields. Coach mode lets you send in the plays while the CD32 controls the players. Commissioner lets you sit back and watch the game played on the screen all by itself. In other words, movie mode. Let's see. Substitution, set audibles, blah, blah, blah. Okay, setting plays. Quick pick is for advanced players who know what play number for the play they want to run. Make a choice quickly to avoid a delay in game penalty. Playbook. Select playbook to see the first level of pages available, blah, blah, blah. We knew that. Quick pick. Oh, I see. You have to actually push in a direction to pick the number. Each play number has 2 digits. As soon as the second digit is entered, the play will be run. If you make a mistake, you can change the number before entering, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. So let's see. Quick pick. I still can't really pick one, though. Maybe you have to hold a button down. Hang on a second. We're going to figure this out. It says you're supposed to move in a direction to do it. I'm not sure this controller's in the right mode or something, this stupid Sega controller.
First down.
All right, well, more penalty for me. Oh, what the hell was that? I still can't sack you.
He stood him right up.
Dude, none of the buttons work to press the ball.
Well, you weren't in pass mode, though.
I wasn't? How do you go in the pass mode?
I don't know. But normally you see the little arrows, Madden style.
Slash them, bash them, hit them where it's marked. Come on, you sissies.
Gotta like the cheerleaders, though.
Yeah, pick a passing play.
This is weird.
Second down.
Maybe I have to look ahead. Maybe once somebody does a regular pick, you can't do it.
See, I'm pressing all the buttons. It's doing nothing. It does nothing, dude. You can't do jack.
We're missing something here.
Third down.
Okay, would you run? Oh man, that's not right. Okay, try the playbook again. Go back to the pass. I'm going to poke up the instructions here. Passing game can only happen if passing play selected. Passing plays have a green diagram in the playbook.
Oh. I thought these were...
Once the quarterback has reached the end of his dropper, you move him with the direction control. The arrows will appear at the screen pointing to the available receivers. Box around an arrow of the currently selected receiver. To move the box to another receiver, press and hold the select button. The box will cycle through the receivers. If the arrow is red...
button?
Well, you have 2 buttons. Only 2 of them work. I think red and blue on that one.
All right.
Okay, let's see what happens here. Did you pick one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Touchdown.
All right, here we go. We're going to try this again. We're exploring. There we go.
Oh, look at that. Every time I throw it, though, you deflect it.
I came and smacked the ball down. Still don't know why this quick pick shit doesn't work. You going to do another throw? Oh, do I got the ball now?
Yeah, you got the ball now.
Nice, okay. No, not quick pick, damn it. Let me see if I can get a pass thing going here. It'll give you a lot of time.
First down.
All right, we'll see if I can get a pass off here. Throw that shit. Damn.
You did throw it. It bounces right off of me.
That ain't
Nice
right.
collision detection.
Nice collision detection. The collision detection was nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's do a nice long one.
How do I get out of this?
That's weird, dude. I don't understand why that quick pick ain't working. He doesn't like you.
Second down.
Yeah, let's see what happens here. Throw the ball!
He's hearing bells after that one, to be sure.
You got sack sword.
I got sacked. How many freaking yards have I lost? I've lost a lot, though.
3rd and 18.
Damn!
So that was 4th and 25.
Nice. Okay, let's try this again. Try another pass. 40 seconds left. It's amazing. It's like real football. 2 minutes of play time is like 7 hours of regular time.
Third down.
Okay, here we go. What the hell was that? What the hell is that?
Audible.
How does that work out? What? What did you do? You sat there!
Incomplete pass.
You son of a bitch. Shut up.
Are you going to throw on fourth down?
Yeah, I'm going to throw on the fourth down. Why not? This is arcade football, right?
Anything can happen?
Touchdown.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, you must be pressing the audible button.
Offside. 5-yard penalty.
Hey, I get to run again. One more time before I lose the ball to your sorry ass.
Fourth down.
Damn, your guy was grilling my ass.
Incomplete pass.
All right. Well, back to you. Let's see if you can freaking pass that thing.
Pass it.
Pass it. Oh, guess I got to do something now, huh?
Yeah, it'll help.
Shut up.
First down.
Okay.
Fumble. Defense falls on the ball.
Oh, man.
Damn.
This is booty.
This is booty.
This is getting the booty rating.
First down.
Give us the bootay. Okay, so that must be the audible button. Damn. You can decline the penalty?
It's for me.
Oh. Damn.
Holding. 10-yard penalty.
Nice.
It's like 2nd and 20 for you. It is. 1st and 20.
Damn.
Dang.
Nice. That's not right. But passing's just a bitch in this game. We should play some NFL Street now.
First down.
I'm going to play Madden next.
Oh, hell no.
Doggone it.
Offside. 5-yard penalty.
Damn, now we gotta pick our plays again, damn it. It looks like you can do like 46, but it's not picking that up.
We're only going to play the halftime, then we'll just...
Yeah, we're not
wrap
gonna,
this up.
we're gonna sack out a little sooner.
Nobody scored yet.
Dude, we ain't even got close to scoring. Get your guy out there.
Incomplete pass.
Nice.
Incomplete pass.
Incomplete pass. This is actually a Commodore first party title.
And you can tell. So much tell.
Oh, man. You know what, though? They didn't really make... I mean, it was this and TV Sports Football. That was the only football ever made for the Amiga. Other than, like, there was like 5 million soccer games, though.
Yeah, it just bounce. I don't even do anything. It just bounces right
Just bounce off of you. Nice. I don't even think we're going to make it through this quarter, dude.
Is it 7 seconds left?
Yeah. Well, no, that's what I'm saying. We'll
Oh,
make
yeah,
it
I
through the
think we
quarter.
weren't going to make it.
We're going to make it through the quarter, and
Third down.
then we're going to be done with this, I think.
Oh, he's doing something.
Damn. Get my guy wasn't even close to the ball. Damn.
2 seconds left. 4th and 15. Put it, Willie.
Oh, you know what? It's letting me select the play, but it's not showing you what the play is. So you just have to know which direction to push for that quick play. Special teams. Damn, we're going to drag that 2 seconds out, baby.
He missed that.
I missed that totally. Dude, is it going to give it to me?
No. Ping. Hit the goalpost.
Oh, man.
Ping.
What do you think?
Kick is no good.
Yeah, you think? Oh, let's see what the halftime show is at least. I think maybe there's cheerleaders.
Mr. City, big guy. I got sweat beating under my eyebrows. What say we take a look at your game plan?
First you suck.
A little something extra.
Yeah, like somebody who can play the game.
Looks like we've got a big, bad barn burner. How's that shape up to you? Balanced performances between the offense and the defense always make for
We
tight
both
football
suck.
games.
That's what basically saying. That's why saying you
Thanks,
suck.
Roland. Terry, what's the word on the sideline?
From where
The wind
I
stopped.
stand, both teams are doing an outstanding job of staying alive out there. In the second half, then, it'll be up for grabs.
Of course it will be. No one's scored, and no one's leaving him close to scoring.
So that's it for now. I'll be here with Roland and Terry for the post-game wrap-up. For CD, this is Stan Gruel.
They took the TV out.
All right. Let's look at how your honorable opponent played in the first half.
Maybe we won't. Okay, that'll round it out for us, don't you think?
Oh, yes.
Oh, God, please.
Make it stop.
Make it stop.
I love football games, and that was horrible.
That's horrible. But you got to admit the presentation was kind of cool, though.
They spent too much time on the
presentation
and not on the gameplay.
Well, again, I think this title was originally supposed to be like the premier show-off title for the CD-TV. And then when the CD-TV did less than good, they tried to kick it up and put it as a 32 title. As a CD-TV title, like in 91, it probably would have been very impressive, especially as a show-off title with the full motion video and all that. I mean, nothing was showing 4096 color animation back then. So that'll pretty much sum it up. Atari Football. I got this roller ball in my hand. I took apart my roller ball for the Amiga because it's dead, and so I got this ball in my hand. I just associated with football. I got my ball in my hand. And I associated it with football. I said Atari Football. It's amazing how that works out. Okay, that'll round it up for Amiga CD Football for the CD32.
Oh, you don't have any comments?
I didn't make my comments.
Okay, dang. You just the graphics were nice. Thank you.
The graphics were nice. Thank you. This month we look at two more shareware games that fit sort of the motif of the classic gamer. And this month we're going to be looking at River Raider 2, which, if you have not already guessed, is a River Raid style game. And we're also going to be looking at a very unusual game from Blue Tea Games. Hey, you got to stand by me here with the title. Cactus Bruce and the Corporate Monkeys. Now, that alone should lead you to believe that this game was at least partially inspired by a drug-induced hallucination. We're going to get into more of that in just a minute. But let's start with what we have. First off is a little title I took a peek at. I can't remember how I got to it. The website's not extraordinary. In fact, if you came to the website, you might go, doesn't look professional enough. I'm going to go find something else. But I'm such a whore for River Raid that I had to take at least a look at a renovated version. And Tamestorm has created River Raider 2, which is a 3D, pretty much a straight remake of River Raid. You can choose different planes and a helicopter. There's all sorts of missions and lots of different landscapes. Standard enemies, planes, helicopter, ship, submarine. If you've played River Raid, you basically know how this game works. But the 3D actually kind of works out okay here. Now, you guys know me. I'm no fan of the 3D genre. And I hate seeing 2D games taken and put into 3D. In this case, it's not so bad. It feels like River Raid, even though it's 3D. And if you can capture that feel and that core essence, I think that you can get away with making a 2D game into 3D. You just can't mess with stuff. That being said, the game's pretty smooth. It's it has a feel of a homebrew game, but that doesn't stop it from being fun. After all, River Raid was not exactly a complex game. As in River Raid, you scream down the caverns, right, over water, and you shoot down enemies that are bouncing basically back and forth. They're sitting still in the water. And as you blow stuff up, your fuel's depleting, and you've got to pick up fuel containers along the way. Same sort of idea here. For those people who just can't get by with 2D graphics anymore, this gives you another methodology of playing what is still truly a classic game of River Raid. The title is a respectable $15, so if you decide you like it, it's a 5.5 megabyte download. So it's quick to get, quick to play, easy to get into, and it's pretty cheap to own, and that's always important. We're going to give you a link there. That's games-soft.com by Tamestorm, River Raider 2. Now, the next game that I want to look at is, how should we say it, unique. And to say that a game is unique anymore is a very hard property to come by, which is why I decided to review it. Cactus Bruce and the Corporate Monkeys is one of those games that there's certainly nothing in particular new inside of it. A lot of the stuff you'll see hat tips to all sorts of games. Not theft, like we talked about last month, but hat tips. And when I say hat tips, I'm talking about references to other games without stealing so much of it you feel like you're playing the same game. Inside of Cactus Bruce and the Corporate Monkeys, you're going to find things like Paratrooper, a sort of breakout style game, breaking bricks. You'll feel a little bit of that in there. And the crux of the game is, I don't even know how to even say this with a straight face. You play a cactus dressed up as a pirate, all right? I swear to God, these guys are in the back smoking the biggest blunt possible to come up with a game idea like this. Each level has these monkeys on these platforms. And as the game progresses, more and more stuff happens. But the basic idea here is you're Cactus Bruce, and you control this giant grappling hook. You know, like on Bionic Commando, where you can like swing the hook out and grab something and swing, or pull yourself up or whatever. It's kind of like that. Only it's more like the redemption games, where you can throw your hook out and grab stuff. And pretty much everything that moves in the game is grabbable with this claw. Now, the only concession is once you throw the claw out, you don't get it back, and it's on a chain, right? But you don't get it back until it either catches something or it goes all the way to the top of the screen or to the side of the screen, or it hits the edge. So that can put you in a pretty crappy predicament, because the crane is not only your offensive weapon, but it's also your defensive weapon. While you're playing, the monkeys are going to hurl stuff at you, and you're going to think, hey, it's kind of like Pooyan. That's what I was thinking. It's like, it's kind of like Pooyan. Even though there's no pigs or anything involved, there's a hat tip there to Pooyan. And you can use your crane to deflect these coconuts that the monkey are throwing. So how do you actually win the level? What's the goal? Well, the goal is there are certain platforms of different colors that have to be destroyed. You have to destroy all of these platforms to move on to the next level. Now, the first levels are pretty rudimentary. How do you smash the levels? Well, you can't smash them with your grappling hook. That'd be, like, too easy, right? So you have to grab stuff and hurl them at the platforms. Now, there's all sorts of crap that you can get on this. I've only played the first few levels. I'm going to wait on a key so I can explore it more, and I'll catch you guys up if I find out more good stuff. But you reach out. You can snag the monkeys, first of all. And any time that you can pick up a small furry animal with a crane, you've got a winner. And, of course, what good is having the monkey if you can't chuck him when you're done with him? So you grab the monkey and you throw the monkey at other monkeys, or you throw the monkey at platforms and destroy the platforms. As long as there are platforms, the monkeys keep respawning. Now, in the early levels, they just peek out from underneath the platforms, and they pop up and they start hurling coconuts at you. On later levels, the little bastards paratrooper in. And it's too funny. I mean, you can pluck them out of the air, too. It's classic. It's classic to use this crane to start snatching up stuff. They also paratroop other stuff in. Flowers, there's bananas that you can snag. And there's different kind of properties. Certain items that you snag only hurt monkeys. In other words, if you throw them up, it'll bypass the platforms and just smack the monkey off. There's a strategy involved. These first levels are mostly just an exercise. But later on, there's going to be times when you're going to have to do certain types of things. And some of them may require that you don't destroy this platform until you destroy this other platform. But you still want to knock the monkeys off, right? So they give you a multitude of these different sort of tools to work with. And, of course, when you pluck monkeys out of the air, they scream and you throw them. It's classic. It's got that hamster ball animal brutality thing to it, but it's really cute and fuzzy so nobody gets offended by it. Classic. But in later levels, you get friends. And the friends, like the first friend you get is this little fish. And he floats around in the water. You're on like an island, by the way. And there's water all around you. And the fish floats around back and forth on the bottom of the screen. Well, if a monkey gets close, then he gets scared and he jumps out of the water. Well, when he jumps out of the water, you can snag him. And apparently he's like the salamander of death in, what's the name of those books? I don't know. I'm not going to get segued into that. But Buford. What the heck was that? Was that Robert Asper Myth Adventures? I'm sure someone will write in and tell me. But anyway, basically you get this little fish and you hike him and all hell breaks loose. It's great. And apparently there's tons of other friends in this game. It's very interesting. The company's Blue T Games, and it's bluetgames.com. Again, they come up with Blue T Games, but I'm sure there's a story behind that. Price is a little higher. It's $19.95 for the game. Very quick and easy download. They give you 14 levels of play. They have these things called challenges, too, which are even more complex type screens. You also get a bonanza, like bonanza mode for expert players to play. You get free updates, etc., etc. It's actually a pretty good game. The graphics they're not extraordinary, but they do the job, you know. They could have easily made this a 2D game, even though you can tell it's a 3D game. They could have easily done this in 2D and gotten away with it. It would have been just fine. Anyway, there's some great stuff in here. This is one of those games that, for a change, you can actually say, hey, I see the nuances of other games, but it's a totally new game on its own. It's like Grand Theft Auto 3. Same idea. Borrowed from a bunch of games, little hat tips, but they came together and made their own deal. And I'm telling you, anything where you get to control a claw is cool. You know, I must admit, I spent a lot of money on stupid redemption games as a kid, those stupid claws trying to pull the animals out. Same idea, except for the animals scream when you catch them, which is really great stuff. Lots of little friends. It's a little funny storyline. And it's crazy. It's a crazy game. So this is one of those games I'm definitely going to recommend, and it's actually something I'm going to play long after this interview. Scratch that. Long after this review is over. So, anyway, again, this is Blue T Games, Cactus, Bruce, and the Corporate Monkeys. Definitely at least get the demo and see if it's your cup of tea. I don't see how anybody can't have a cup of tea when you're smacking around monkeys. All right, so. Well, that's going to wrap it up for our shareware segment this time around. Keep it short and sweet, but we wanted to give you guys a few more products for you to play. Everyone seems to like the shareware reviews, and we're having a good time doing them, so we'll keep them coming in future episodes of Retro Gaming Radio. Well, folks, I think that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Retro Gaming Radio. Special thanks goes out to Retro Gamer Magazine for hosting our show on their cover desk. Special thanks also go out to speedhost.com, our eternal host. If you need good hosting, speedhost.com is your man. You tell them we sent you. We'd also like to take time to thank all of our contributors. You guys know who you are. We've thanked you probably already in the segments. We have great people that provide content here to the show, and we're thankful for that. Special thanks, of course, to all of our listeners, new and old. We couldn't do this show without you. Well, we could, but nobody would be listening to it. So, anyway, be sure to tune in next month. We'll have our big December episode, and I'm hoping we're going to have some goodies to give away as Christmas presents this year. We're going to tap our regular donators and see if they've got anything good to help us give away some goodies. So you'll definitely want to tune in next month. We'll have good stuff going on there. More interviews, more of what you want to hear, more good stuff. Well, this is Shane R. Monroe with Bryan Kid Hive Smith here at Retro Gaming Radio saying, until next time, keep it retro.